Welcome back to the Bourbon and BS podcast, everyone. It is episode 229, and we are joined by, first and foremost, Miguel Chodell. Is that mean?
I think that's
appropriate.
Yeah,
I think so. Miguel Chodell with Crowned Heads. He brought with him a new employee.
Yes.
You might recognize him if you've been a long-time listener or viewer of the show. We have Jake Sanders, co-founder of the Bourbon and BS podcast, back in the garage in a new role with the new company, and still handsome as ever.
Thank you.
You're
Thank
welcome.
you for having me back.
Absolutely. You got
kind
Nate Hale.
Kind of a reunion.
It's a little bit of a reunion, yeah.
Yeah.
Well, and then you're here too, which is cool.
Yeah. Well, you're like the Jay Leno, and these guys are like the two Ed McMahons you've had.
Okay. Okay.
All
That's
right.
fair.
I know my role.
Yeah, very apparently.
And who's this other guy on the show here?
Nate Hale?
Nate.
Nate Hale, welcome to the show.
Nate's a wonderful guy. Known Nate many years.
Yes.
Wonderful man.
Tonight we're doing a special Thursday night podcast show because we had an event last night with these two fine gentlemen from Crowned Heads here in Columbus, Ohio. We had a sellout, which was fantastic. Good turnout, good weather until after the event. We got stormed on, but
It felt nice
did feel nice.
after 90
I
degrees.
felt bad, you and Miguel. I'm sitting with Miguel, and we're like away from the rain, and he's trying to take care of 5 little chicken wings, and like his glasses are like fogged up, water all over them. Sauce is now extra wet.
My last chicken wing,
A
I'm
little
like
soggy.
eating it, and like the water's blowing in on my face, and I'm like,
Perfect.
I can handle this.
I got this, man. I got this. But yeah, so guys, welcome back. I'm going to follow along. I'm going to share this as well. Encourage you guys to do so. Hopefully we'll have a great crowd tonight on Thursday night. I do want to thank our sponsors, not only these guys for being here tonight, but our sponsors, Tinder Box at Easton. Appreciate the support. That's how this all kind of comes together in Columbus, Ohio. They do carry Crowned Heads, not the entire line. Currently not carrying our featured cigar, but we wanted to talk about it because they kind of a newer one, not the newest from the trade show this year, but it's a newer cigar, about a year old. And it's coming out of a partner of yours in the whole Crowned Heads family, basically.
Ace Prime Cigars, who we have a strategic partnership with. They make a lot of our cigars, and this happens to be one of their cigars. And it was number 12 on the Cigar Aficionado Top 25 list. And
It's awesome.
I thought it was kind of a cool cigar to feature tonight.
Yeah. So we'll talk about that here momentarily. I do want to thank also Altadis USA. You see some of their logos behind us. Monte Cristo, Romeo y Julieta. You've got H. Upman and Aging Room, among others. Normally, they provide the second featured cigar, or the second cigar of the podcast for part 2, Beyond the BS. Tonight, we're going to be doing more Crowned Heads, which is awesome. Might have some special guests here popping up, either on screen or on the microphone throughout the episode, most likely in part 2. And hopefully, guys, you can tune in for that. If you're listening on the audio, just click over to part 2 when it comes time. And also thank you to the BS Cigar Company. The gold and silver are now available. The gold is made by Placencia, and the silver is made by Eric Espinosa. And we appreciate both those factories and getting those cigars, and they're fantastic.
Great cigars.
Very, especially the silver, very different, unique, which I like about that.
Yep.
The golds are the workhorse of the two, and hopefully you guys can check them out as well. Patreon.com for you guys that contribute every month. We really appreciate it. Helps us stream, helps us do all this stuff. And gets us more and more ability to do more things with this. So patreon.com/Bourbon and BS podcast. If you want to do a one-time donation, or if you want to just like buy a bottle for us in a sense from far away, you're not coming to the garage, you can't make it, you're far away, different state, country, whatever. Venmo at Bourbon and BS, and just tell us what you want us to buy, and we'll do our best to secure a bottle. Join us on also the Bourbon and BS community page on Facebook. We're about 1,600 members strong. And,
Hell yeah.
Love that.
Wow.
Bourbon and BS podcast on Instagram, Facebook, and you can watch this live on Facebook, usually Wednesday nights around 7:30, 8 o'clock, or YouTube live as well. So you can share it on there. We try to monitor all the comments as well. Jack Duranio says, part 2 will be fire. Big burrito fan, I think.
Huge burrito fan.
Topic is, do you rewrap your burrito?
Do you rewrap your
So
burrito?
think about that during part 1, and we'll get there and see what the hell we're talking about. Miguel was sound super racist. Miguel was the inspiration. I had a disclaimer in there.
Wow.
We were having a conversation, and Miguel's like, I was in the Tinder Box one time, and he'll tell a story.
I'll
But
tell
when
the
I was going to
story,
say that Miguel's the inspiration for this topic, I'm like,
yeah,
I'm going to get out ahead of that.
It's great. Next week, they're going to have a Jewish guest and have gefilte fish. So, and that just happens.
Tune in
to
next
be,
week.
Oh my god!
You know,
And then over the weekend at Tinder Box, there's going to be diversity training.
I love it. See, that's why I threw it. I got ahead of that one.
Disclaimer.
Yeah, that'd be like a cancel culture
Not
thing.
'cause I'm
Did you hear what
Mexican.
Steve said on the
Yeah.
Bourbon BS guy?
I'm canceled.
Miguel obviously was the inspiration for the burrito. All right.
Well, because he's part German.
No.
Yeah.
Okay.
How do you eat your potato?
Tonight, we have part one. We are smoking, like we mentioned, the what is this?
Luciano.
This is Luciano the Dreamer.
Right.
Comes in, came out last year in a Lancero, originally just one size. Again, Lancero was number 12 cigar in the top 25 list, which is kind of unique because not a lot of Lanceros make that top 25 list, and it was one of them, the only one that year. And the popularity of the cigar was great, but not everyone's a Lancero smoker. So we decided to add 3 extra vitolas. One of them is a Bellicoso. One is what we're calling a Toro Deluxe, which is kind of a Toro and a Churchill kind of size. And then we added a Hermoso number 4, essentially a Robusto, which we're smoking tonight. I believe it's a 48 ring gauge. Just a beautiful cigar, beautiful dark wrapper, medium bodied, very complex cigar. It goes great with if you're drinking a scotch or a rum or a bourbon. It just has a lot of good complexity to it. Really well rolled. Tabacalero Pichardo, who owns Ace Prime Cigars. And we at Crown Heads, our story is that we distribute their cigars for them in the U.S. And so I think it's kind of nice to feature. We're going to have a Crown Heads on the second half of the show, but we decided to feature an Ace Prime cigar on the first half of the show.
Yeah. And what is the makeup of this cigar?
So
Here we go.
yeah.
New guy, go ahead.
All right. So it is an Ecuadorian Sumatra wrapper leaf, and then it is a Nicaraguan binder with Nicaraguan and Costa Rican fillers.
Absolutely. And the Costa Rican has a little bit of a high salinity. It's a little saltier leaf,
Yep.
which allows your palate to salivate a little bit more, and you're able to pick up some of the nuances of the Nicaraguan tobacco from Pueblo Nuevo and Jalapa. And I think the wrapper is beautiful because it's an Ecuador Sumatra, but it's a little darker. It's a little longer fermentation.
It is darker.
Yep.
And it's got this beautiful. There's always a name I want to use, and I think Brindle. They use like it's got that.
It's like Steve's
Brindle's
dog
like
Tony.
dog.
Like your dog Tony. It's kind of got this unique color to it. It's not all completely uniform. It's got a little dark. It's a beautiful color, and it just looks very delicious. And I love this size. I think the Hermoso really is a great entry level size to kind of get into it before you get into the Lancero or the Toro Deluxe or the Bellicoso. It really kind of primes the pump on your palate.
Priming the pump.
Priming the pump.
I always kind of got like a reddish hue when I look at Sumatra wrapper. Like there's a little bit of that red to it.
Yeah, almost a slight rosado kind of in the background. Yeah, I agree.
You guys have been working with I think I don't know which episode it was, but we smoked the Juarez.
Yeah.
Which I believe, correct me if I'm wrong, Jake or Miguel, that was the first collaborated project.
Yeah, that was the first collaborative project we did with Ace Prime with Tabacalero Pichardo. That was released. We actually worked on what would become Mil Diaz first, but we were working on what would become Mil Diaz. We worked on it for a while, then set it aside, worked on Juarez, released Juarez, and then finished Mil Diaz. But Juarez that has become a staple in a lot of humidors across the United States. Great price point, Mexican San Andreas, just a nice, robust, earthy, characteristic cigar that it just goes over really well. And that comes in 4 vitolas. And there's a size called Chihuahua that I really enjoy. It's a 48 ring gauge. The rest of the sizes are 52, 54, and 56 ring gauge. So if you like a thicker, heavier gauge from us, at least, that's about as thick you're going to get from us. And so Juarez has become an important part of our portfolio, if you will.
Yeah, and you guys, what's interesting to me with the Crown Heads, there's some traditional sizes.
Mm-hmm.
You do some like fun names, if you will, like, with your Jericho Hill line, and there's always like stories, a lot of time music oriented.
Yep.
But with some of these, you're coming out with like the Fiat Lux. With this one, you have unique names to it, but there's always some sort of I feel like some of them are more traditional that you don't hear as much anymore.
Yeah.
It's not like some of the other brands that you just like what's a Ashton's a big one.
Yeah.
You know, like what's a enchantment size? You know what I mean?
Right,
Like they
yeah,
just
yeah,
came
yeah,
up
yeah,
with
yeah.
a name.
Yeah.
I don't know if there's a lot of like story behind that, or is it unique to the blend?
If you look at the old Cuban vitolas, right? Vitola is a size of a cigar. Well, in Cuba, there were always kind of two. You have the factory name, and then you have the commercial name. So, for an example, a Cohiba Lancero, that is a Leguito number 1. In a factory, they would not call it a Lancero.
Right.
Because a Lancero is what it's known as commercially. And so once in a while, you know, Robusto is what it's called in factory and what most people call it. But there are many sizes, like a little, like a shorter Bellicoso, for example, is a Campana in the factory.
Okay.
But a lot of people would call it a little torpedo, or they'd call it a Bellicoso, and then or a large torpedo or pyramid, but you know, it'd be a number 2. So there's all these. So I actually have a book that tells you all of the factory. They call them gallery names.
Okay.
So every shape has basically a factory name, which never changes. And then when it's in a brand, like you could have a Robusto in 5 different brands, and they may all have different names. But while they're being rolled in the factory, they all go by one name. So it is a traditional thing. Hermosa number 4 is an old school Cuban vitola.
Right.
And so Robusto would be a 50 ring gauge. A Hermosa number 4 would drop down a little bit in ring gauge.
You guys always throw me off too with the
Sublime.
Yeah.
I figured that's where you were
Sublime.
going.
Yeah.
Well, you know, Sublime, again, that's a Cuban size. And Sublime is really a size of a Toro, you know, and there's all these different vitolas that you have. And I think what's great about cigars is you can have a cigar and you can call it a Corona Gorda, you can call it a Moreva, you can call it all these different names, but at the end of the day, it's a Corona.
Right.
And so that's a lot how the naming of vitolas go. And I understand when you come up with fun names, we have some fun names for some of our cigars, but the reality is there is a tradition to it. There are roots to it. There are reasons why the name is the name that it is, right? So we created a limited edition Mil Diaz last year called the Escogidos. Oh, that's a double Corona in another cigar. It could be the same name, but it's and then at the factory level, I believe it's Prominentes or Prominentes maybe. So there's many different names for the same shaped cigar.
Yeah.
There's no right or wrong, but there are reasons for some of the names like Hermoso, Campana. These go back 150 years.
Which I like that you guys do some of that stuff.
Yeah.
And that Ace Prime Pichardo is doing that with a lot of their stuff too, I see.
Well, Radio Pichardo, who the factory's named after, who's Luciano's business partner, he's from Cuba. He worked in the factories in Cuba. And so a lot of those names, because he worked at the factory level, those names are normal to him, you know? And I do like bringing some of those because it creates conversation. Like, why'd you name this Hermoso? And then you got to give them the background and the history. And at the end of the day, any of us that smoke cigars, we're smoking history. And this culture has been around long before we were born. It's going to be long around after we're gone. Yeah. And I think preserving some of the history, but also adding some uniqueness to the business, I think that's a fun part of the cigars.
Absolutely. I do think, and I know it's not necessarily, you know, English words or American words, if you will, but I mean, we have simplified it being the biggest importer of premium cigars with Robusto, which a lot of the customers will say Robusto.
Yep.
You know, Toro, double Corona, when it's like Corona Doble. You know what I mean? Like you're seeing that. So I can appreciate it. It does cause a little bit of confusion when you don't see the dimensions of the cigar. I think that's a big part that I do like that you guys do that, is that a lot of times on the SKUs or on the boxes, you have the name like Fiat Lux Genius.
Yeah, Genius, yeah.
And it's like, what size is that? Yeah, like which size? You want the Genius size? And like, what the fuck is that? Yeah.
And I you know, I do talk to people and they go, man, why can't you just give it a normal name? But you know, when you create these cigars, there's an art, there's a craft to it, there's an artisanal part of it. But also, if you make 20 different blends as a company, you want to have some fun with it. You know what I mean? And you want to just kind of spice it up a little bit. And I do think cigar consumers Although some may find it a little confusing, I do think cigar consumers like to have fun with it. You know what I mean? You mentioned Jericho Hill. I mean, we have a size called Willie Lee. We have a size called Jack Brown. We have a size called 44S, and there's all reasons for that, for them to have those names. It's just fun. I think it adds fun to it a little bit.
Yeah, it does.
And one company's Robusto is not another company's Robusto.
No, it's another company's double Robusto.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah.
Or another half like a 5 or a 5.5 inch.
Yeah.
Or it's funny. It's a true Cuban Corona Gorda is my favorite size, and that is a 5 5/8 by 46.
Mm-hmm.
That's a true Corona Gorda by Cuban standard. Now, there's plenty of cigars out there that are 6 by 46. That's damn near close.
Yeah,
but that's not a Corona Gorda.
What always shocks me, and we can get off the topic of size, because a bunch of guys sitting around talking about size.
Oh yeah.
I don't know if it's appropriate or not, but
and it's not. He's not. You're referring to your arms.
Sure.
If you want to brag here on the show about your guns.
No, I don't. But I will say it's nice that you guys. What's the most amount of sizes you have per blend? 6?
Yes. Our original 4 kicks had 6 different Vitolas available.
I think sometimes, and you talk to other reps, I think of, Ashton is one. I'm not trying to say anything bad, but they do have, it seems like 12, 14 different.
Well, in
Vitolas.
In a previous life, when I worked for CAO Cigars, I worked for them for 7 years.
Yeah.
And they had been around for quite some time. And when you have a popular, I'm going to use Brasilia. At that time, the Osgener family owned. This is before General took over them. But Brasilia was, and CAO Gold were our 2 top selling lines.
Yeah.
And what would happen was you'd start with 3 or 4, then you had a 5th, then a 6th, and then this line would get real popular, and then new sizes would become popular, and you had a 7. Next thing you know, I think by the time I left, Brasilia had 12 Vitolas you could choose from.
I think it's a slippery slope because you start cannibalizing your own line.
Yeah.
I mean, you really do. I was thinking like Macanudo with the Cafe series.
Mm-hmm.
I think it's like 28.
Yeah.
If you include like the miniatures,
of course, you add them all.
It's like you look at it and you're like, which one of these 2 columns of sizes do you want of that blend? And then you have the sales side of it, just to really dive into that part real briefly. Mm-hmm. From the sales, you guys are both on the sales side of it. It's like, if you being the national sales manager, Miguel, and you're going to Jake, you're like, we got these 12 sizes and you're only selling 3 to these shops. And it's like, well, when was the last time you went into a shop?
Right.
They don't have shelf space for 8 boxes of the same blend.
Back in the CAO.
Or the money necessarily.
Yeah, we're talking 20 years ago. There were a lot less brands on the market. So we could have at a store 8 Vitolas of a Brasilia. Today, there's no way you can do that.
Not with all the brands.
Right.
Not
no
with
way.
brands like yourself out there that you're
Absolutely.
teetering now, boutique, a little bit pushing, all that stuff.
I had an account actually talk to us today about, they said, hey, I got a question for you. You have this new line out. There's 4 Vitolas. One's kind of a Corona Gorda-esque. One's a Robusto. And then you basically have 2 Toros. Like, what's the thinking
line?
Behind that?
Right.
The Le Patissier. But you could say that about a bunch of our lines. And he said, well, why? Why do you have 2 sizes that are so close? I said, well, the reality is most stores will bring in 4 right away. And they'll pair it to 3.
Yeah.
And we know you're going to carry the Corona Gorda-esque size because that's what our signature is. You're going to carry the Robusto, so number 1 selling size in the country. Now, the 2 Toros, it's all about what kind of Toro your store is. Is your store a 50 to a 52 Toro, or is your store a 54 to 56 Toro? So we give you that choice. We know more than likely you're not going to carry 4 Vitolas in a line. You're probably going to carry 3. 2 already spoken for, and then you get to choose kind of that 3rd size. What kind of Toro? And he said, oh, okay, I get it. So rarely will those 2 Toros be on the shelf at the same place at the same time.
Yeah, for example, with your Mil Diaz line that you guys have. And I believe La Imperiosa, double Robusto, which is not what I consider a double Robusto when I look at it. You know what I mean? Because it's a 6 3/8 by 50, I believe. Mm-hmm. And then you have the Sublime, which is a 6 by 54. The American thinking there is like that bang for your buck. They're within cents of each other.
Yep.
And it's kind of deceiving if you're just looking at it for the first time. You're like, well, I'll take the bigger one.
Yeah.
And you're like, wait, Wait,
it's long,
which
length
one?
or girth.
A lot of times they'll point at the longer one
Yeah, of course.
because they don't really put it together.
Think about ring gauge.
And you're right, because I'll smoke both of those, and both those lines in particular. I go back to the double Robusto.
Mm-hmm.
There's just I think the flavor is a little bit.
John Huber would agree with you. One of the owners of Crown Heads, that double Robusto size is his favorite in
That
the
50
Lampuriosa
ring
and in
gauge,
the Milbillas.
I find a lot of blenders, in my small experiences, that they like that 50 ring gauge when they're blending,
100%.
because you can dial it down a couple, ring gauge, or you can dial it up a couple ring gauge.
Yeah.
You go to 70 or whatever, even 60, you're changing the flavor of the cigar.
100%.
If
Well,
you go Lancero, go ahead.
I think the ratio is correct. Like it's a better ratio as far as a 50 compared to a 54.
Correct. Yeah. I agree with you completely. I agree. Yeah.
And I do think that
Doug Ruffalo says number one cigar for him is La Imperiosa Double Robusto.
Beautiful.
That's-
Thank you,
yeah.
brother. Thank you.
And Jonathan Aaron says that many sizes can't be good production for a small company too. When you guys are there, you're like, it's like, do you want to produce that many available cigars?
Well, look, 4 to 6 Vitolas in a line is very easily doable.
Yeah. But when you hit 8
you
to
don't
12,
you don't see many companies anymore do any more than that. Now, when you talk about Macanudo, that's a little different. They've been around for a very long time, and you do add sizes all those years later, and then sometimes you have lines that start with one size. Our good friends at Rocky Patel, I remember when Edge was available one size, and then they came out with more sizes and then more sizes. Well, why is that? That's not because maybe they wanted to, but there's demand for it, and you got to meet that demand. And there are times where companies make a bunch of Vitolas, and then we peel back and say, okay, we're going to discontinue this size or this size. It's part of it. It's just part of it. It's part of the game. But I believe Vitola plays such an important part in you enjoying your cigar. Little story for you.
story time.
Back in the day, I remember there were a lot less brands, right? And there was a brand called Monte Cruz. It was made by Benji Menendez after his family got pushed out of Cuba. They are the original family that created Monte Cristo in Cuba. And I remember this brand Monte Cruz, and this is probably late 80s, early 90s. They had a poster out with all their Vitolas. And there's one store in Ohio that still has this poster in their store. And it's so funny because when you actually take a close look, there'll be a size that's, let's say, 6 by 46. And then there's a size that's 6 1/8 by 46. You're talking minimal difference. You could not tell the difference. But back in the day, there weren't as many brands. And when someone fell in love with a size, that was the only size that they were going to smoke.
That's it.
This one's a half inch or less longer. No, I don't want it. I want the original.
Well, like
times have changed.
The double Robusto, if Sublime.
Yeah.
Like if it's like a customer like Doug Ruffalo, it's like, do you have the double Robusto La Imperiosa? No, but we have the Sublime, which is 6 by 54. It's real close. Nah.
Yeah.
I want the double Robusto.
Yeah.
And then he ends up buying like a different cigar.
Right. Yeah. I mean, you lose that a little bit,
but a big, back in the day, there was a brand. Well, obviously, it's still a brand, Portagas, the Cuban Portagas. The nickname of that cigar back in the 50s was the brand of 1,000 sizes. At one time, it was available in over 40 different Vitolas. Pre-embargo, 40.
Good.
And it was known as the brand of 1,000 sizes.
40,
and
but,
I mean, everything from a little club, cigarillo, every size in between, all the way to a culebra.
Yeah.
And now even Habanos SA, that they've peeled back sizes.
We can't do this.
Yeah, we can't do this anymore. But it is Vitola. I think it's overlooked a lot. It's such an important part of cigar culture. It really is.
It is. I think that you guys, as the sales people for your brand, and then from the retail side, and really from the publication side, I think there should be more attention to that on a repetitive basis. Yep. Because all you see, and I think the biggest stress on that is when, for example, something gets number one, and it's like people will come into the retail, they'll look online, and I think of one that really stood out, which was really bizarre to me, was when the Oliva V Milanio got Cigar of the Year for Cigar Aficionado, and I believe it was the Figurado.
Yes.
Mm-hmm. Yep.
That's a very generic term, Figurado.
For them, it was their Figurado. So they had the Robusto, they had a number 4, which was like a little petite.
Yep.
Yeah.
They had a Churchill, they had a Toro, they had a double Toro, they had a Torpedo and a Figurado. The Torpedo and Figurado, you really had to look. If you had them sitting next to each other, not in great light, you'd be like, oh, that's a Figurado, that's the Torpedo, because the foot of it. when that happened, all of a sudden people were like, you could even go online and you'd see the Robusto, the Churchill, the Robusto. I'm sorry, like and the Toro and all that stuff. And then it's like Figurato sold out. And you're like, you'd have people coming in like, do you have the number one cigar of the year? Yeah, actually, here's the line right here.
They wanted that particular.
Yeah, the Figurato. Like, no, okay, I'm good. I'm like,
yeah.
Well, so you haven't smoked this yet.
Yeah.
And there were other issues with the Figurato at that time before they added the foam and all that stuff to the box. But it was just very interesting to see.
Same thing happened with the My Father Le Bijou.
Yeah.
It was that Torpedo that got Cigar of the Year.
Yeah.
And some shops had like the Toro, which was the same length.
You're like, no.
But it wasn't a torpedo tip. And people were like, oh, no.
Going back to that Melanio, it's all torpedoes are Figuratos, but not all Figuratos are torpedoes,
right.
Because a Figurato is a generic term for shaped cigar.
Right.
So that includes anything that's not a Parejo.
Right.
And a Parejo is a round cigar.
It's been bastardized a little bit that it's going to be tapered on both sides.
Yeah. And it is. And Figurato's kind of taken on a name of its own where it's going to be, but a Figurato is really generic term for any shaped cigar. So
leave it up to the Americans to.
Well, yeah. And then new sizes have been invented. 660 was not a Vitola. You could not go to a cigar shop in 1994. You could not go and ask for a 660 or a Super Gordo or whatever.
Ernesto.
It did not exist. Yeah.
Ernesto was
the inch. Ernesto and a few other companies came along and really promoted big ring gauges. But America. So even after all these years, new sizes are still being invented.
990 is the most recent that I know of as far as that.
Well, I will tell you, my good friend Tom Lazuka at Asylum Cigars.
Yeah.
Tom has really taken the big ring gauge fad and turned it into a true part of the industry. And even if you don't smoke them, I will say that it's neat that new sizes and new Vitolas are coming around. And at one time, a 660 back in the late 90s, early 2000s, that was kind of a joke cigar.
Yeah.
Not anymore.
Yeah.
And that 770, not anymore. It's not a joke anymore. It's a real size. It sells. And it's regardless if you like it or not, if that's your size or not, they've added a new lexicon, if you will. They've added new verbiage to the industry. And this is a very old industry.
Right.
And the fact that we're still adding new things, I think is pretty unique.
It is unique. Let's get back to the Luciano here.
Yeah.
So we talked about the blend here a little bit. And Jake, if you want to recite that one more time for everyone that's just tuning in now, because we have more viewers.
Yeah. So it's an Ecuadorian Sumatra wrapper leaf, little more fermented than usual, right?
A little darker, yes,
Yeah.
but a little darker,
Yeah, a little thicker. And then it's a Nicaraguan binder with Nicaraguan and Costa Rican fillers. So, but I mean, it's really good. I mean, obviously, I work for Crown Heads, but it is good.
Look, Ace Prime. I think they did a great job on this blend. And the funny thing is, this blend was not blended to a 50. And usually, Luciano's blending style is he blends everything to a 50, and
it was
then
that thinner ring gauge, right?
It was a Lancero was the first size.
Yeah.
So coming up with three more traditional sizes, the Hermoso, the Belcoso, and the Toro Deluxe, he had to do a lot of work to kind of maintain that flavor profile because in that Lancero, as you know, the wrapper plays such an important part.
Yeah.
So it's not that easy for a blender to do, but I think he nailed it. I do think the Lancero has a unique characteristic to it.
It does.
But I don't smoke Lanceros on an everyday basis, and most people don't.
Yeah.
So I think it was great that we added these other sizes, these other Vitolas, if you will, to give it a little bit more broad, for more people to try.
Yeah. Yeah, because not everyone's Lancero, for those that are like kind of the cigar geeks, that's a big seller.
That's a connoisseur size.
Yeah.
It's
a cult size.
The industry is not propped up by that basis.
Yep.
No insult to anyone that considers himself that kind of a smoker, because very important part of the industry, in my opinion.
Mm-hmm.
But that doesn't keep shops open. It doesn't keep factories open.
Mm-hmm.
It is nice. That's more of a niche.
Yeah, it is. It's a
size.
niche size,
and I love that. So again, I like both sides of it. People
Yeah.
they'll come in even to like a retail store and they're like, "What Lanceros do you have?" Like, this one over here and this one over here. I think we got like 6.
Yeah,
that's it. That's the best size. I'm like, so I'm gonna explain business real quick to you, like just real quick.
Yeah,
it may be the best size for for flavor in
That's
your opinion, but it's not the best.
0.01 of our
volume.
sales.
Exactly.
Our volume.
Exactly.
That's because you don't carry more. I'm like,
no, we've all tried.
I like this size. Like, I feel like you're mad at me now. I like this. I'd love to carry more of these. Absolutely.
Yeah, even though it's a great size, like the percentage of sales on that size is so minuscule that I feel like a lot of cigar manufacturers don't even make cigars. They don't make every blend in that size even.
Yeah,
or
yeah,
at
no.
all.
No,
Because it's also a very difficult
to roll.
Yeah.
It's a popular to the point of the Luciano the Dreamer.
Yeah,
very popular small batch or a limited release.
Yeah.
That is a very popular Vitola for that. Nate, what do you think of this cigar? Have you smoked this before?
I've never smoked this before.
Okay,
so neat.
This is my first time. No, it's a little bit lighter than what I was expecting, especially given that it was that darker Sumatra wrapper. To me, it's got this kind of this dry woodiness to it, kind of like a cedar.
I would actually say cedar and dry fruit.
Yep. But you're right, like that Costa Rican, which Crown Heads does other cigars using
Mil Diaz.
Mil Diaz.
All coming from the
Tobacco Pichardo.
Yeah.
Exactly. Yeah. That's something unique about them.
And I remember when we had you on, I think the last time, and we featured the Mil Diaz, you were talking about that Costa Rican tobacco having that kind of salty
very
flavor
salty
to it.
characteristic.
It's that the flavor particularly from that leaf isn't very prominent.
Exactly.
But what it does is that saltiness kind of enhances the flavors of the other tobaccos in the blend.
100%.
We were talking about this on our way over here.
And actually the best way I someone explained it to me. I was actually at a store in Indiana, and they were next door to a candy store. And one of the guys who worked at the candy store would come over and smoke cigars. And he said, you know what the Mil Diaz is like? He said, what it reminded him was eating a piece of caramel and then eating a piece of salted caramel.
Yeah.
And I said, I don't follow.
Yeah.
He went over, brought 2 pieces of caramel over. I ate the first piece of caramel. I go, oh, that's great. He goes, let's try salted caramel. And you could taste the caramel even more intense. And it's that saltiness.
Yeah.
And that is something that I
well,
find in Mil Diaz
Nate,
and in the Dreamer.
It's like food. I
Would
mean,
you say that there's, based on last week's conversation, do you remember that tasting note that I didn't know really what it was, but you and Stephanie did?
On the Stellum, was it the bourbon or the rye?
Just the note that I had a conversation that I didn't know what the hell you were talking about. And it's odd that it's odd that
sorghum.
Would you say there's a little bit of sorghum to that?
To this?
Mm-hmm. Is that what you're talking about?
Can we get a dictionary check, please?
No, there's no sorghum to this.
Sorghum.
Sorghum would be more related to like a molasses,
Yeah.
in terms of that sweetness.
Okay.
No, and sometimes like I said, you use that Costa Rican tobacco just because there may be a Nicaraguan tobacco in this filler, or maybe the binder or the wrapper, where it has good flavor, but it's not a very prominent flavor.
Yep.
So adding that Costa Rican with that saltiness just allows the flavor of that Nicaraguan tobacco to just kind of stand out a little
100%.
That's a really
100%.
good review of the cigar.
Thank you.
That's great.
Yeah.
No, it's dead on.
I like that this is the
It's
first
dead
time you're
on.
smoking it too.
Yeah, I think that's actually kind of neat. Like,
Yeah.
I didn't know you hadn't smoked this before, so I think that's kind of neat to.
Uh-huh.
You've
Yeah.
smoked it before.
I've smoked the original Lancero. I've smoked, I don't know if it was this size. I think I've smoked about 3 sizes of it.
Okay.
And I like this cigar. I do. I like from the business side of it. I think that I like this cigar. That rating, Cigar Aficionado, I think all props to them for doing
Give
what
or
they
take.
do.
Yeah.
If you're at 12 on that list, you're a possible, and you guys would know better, especially Miguel, you're a possible one-time buy.
Yeah.
A number 12. If you're not top 3,
I would say top 2.
that it's a little more
Top 2,
accurate.
you start selling boxes.
Top
People that
12,
never smoked.
if
it,
you're
no
in
problem.
that 11 to, what do they do, like 11 to 16 or whatever, how they release
Yeah,
it,
yeah,
right?
yeah,
It's like
yeah.
16 to 25 is the
Yeah.
first, and then it's like, if you're on that list, like you start getting a little bit of
what you
what
get
people learned about
unsolicited
Pichardo.
trying.
Well, they learned about Pichardo.
Yeah,
I
Like,
also
who's this coming from?
Yeah.
But it's not necessarily from a retail side.
Yep.
It's not necessarily, or consumer side. It's not like, oh, I got to try that number 12. There are some buyers out there that they're really open to trying new stuff. So I like that part of it. But you see this on the shelf. It's very simple. You guys, let me take down the banner here. See the box there between the hats. Pretty plain. Let me see that.
Very simple.
Very
Yeah.
simple. It has a picture of
Luciano.
Luciano.
And but if you don't know who that is, okay.
Yep.
Another boutique brand.
Anyone can connect to it. Yep.
And And you see this on the band is very basic, black, white. I mean,
Very
it
nice
says
font.
Luciano. It's very nice font. But it's neat to see that it's starting to get the attention, I guess is my point.
Yeah, me too. I mean,
it does take you guys to push this, which is one of the reasons that I'm assuming that they wanted to push it.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah.
Big time.
Well, and I know from my experience working retail in the industry for as long as I have, I've had customers come in like after Aficionado publishes their top 25.
Yep.
I've actually had customers come in with like the little flyer
Yeah.
from
insert.
inside the magazine
Yep.
that has the entire
Yeah.
list of the top 25.
Yep.
And they will literally go up to that retailer and go, I want one of whatever you have that's on this list.
Right.
And and then you get to that question like Steve brought up earlier, like, well, I've got that blend,
Not
but not
that
that
Vitola.
size.
Yeah.
Do you still want it? Most of the time they will still buy that cigar because they at least are going to get very similar flavor than the one that was rated. Yeah, I mean, some people will literally take that list and, like you said, a one-timer at least.
Yeah.
Yep.
But sometimes, if you've got a cigar, what's the retail on this?
Oh Lord. I'm gonna say
10?
12, 10
Okay,
Yeah,
12.
it's not 10, it's
to
12.
well, $12. Yeah.
Well,
that original one was pricier. That Lonsdale,
yes.
It's exactly
15
$12
bucks.
it was
MSRP.
15. That was also from retail a little bit of a scare to bring
Oh, of
that on.
course.
You're like, okay, so no one knows this shit.
Yep.
You're gonna put a $15, and I remember like Miguel, you said to Brian and I, like, this. I think we both smoked. We're like, this is good.
Yeah.
On the Ohio shelf, it's $16.
Yep.
I'm not gonna I'm not gonna push this one over something else.
Right.
It's
Right.
just that's not worth the
Yeah.
effort. I mean, there are those customers that are like, wow, I got a gem, like that no one knows about, but it's just not going to be something that
Flies off the shelf.
it's tough to sell.
well, I think sometimes though, if like say you get a number 12 cigar and it comes in at say 10, 12 bucks, and a lot of the cigars that are number 1 or top 5 are all coming in like $15 to $30.
Yep.
You might have some of those customers that are like, you know what? I like this cigar. Like, yes, some of these cigars in the top 3 I may like a little bit more, but because this one comes in at a lower price point, I might buy more of
course.
these, and
course.
those other ones I'll save those for a special occasion.
Yeah,
Type.
absolutely. And look, the Lancero is very tough to roll. It is they're using some really well-aged tobaccos, so that's where the price comes in, and we're able to figure out a way to try to do the 3-core size a little bit more affordable range. And at the end of the day, we also made these, I think, 14 count boxes because they are a little pricier.
Yeah.
So if someone wants to buy a box, a 14 count box, a little bit easier on the pocketbook than a 20 count box.
Also easier on the retailer.
Absolutely.
To buy it.
You're seeing a lot of 10 count boxes really taking control of the share of the market out there.
Yeah.
Jake, how many of these have you smoked? This particular blend.
So
you've been with Crowned Heads for how long now?
So July 1st was my first day.
Okay.
But I guess my first day in the field was July 6th. Was at the trade show, at the PCA trade show. So, and this is actually my first trip on the road with my national sales manager now, Miguel.
Nice.
And we're just going around Columbus all week. So
that's awesome.
Yeah.
How many of this blend have you smoked?
So I honestly, the only one that I had smoked before this was the Lancero.
Yeah.
So when I was still at Burn, we got a bunch of, I think we bought like 10 boxes when it first came out before it ever got rated.
So you smoked it.
Yeah, and I smoked it, and it had more of that like saltiness to it, like that Sumatra wrapper leaf.
Which you're traditionally not a big fan of.
Right.
Yeah.
Right. But I think with this smaller size, it's very, very well balanced. And Steve will attest to this. I don't like smaller cigars like a lot of older traditional cigar smokers are. Yeah. A Toro is that's my jam.
Yeah.
I feel like that might change.
Well, with this company and John,
I
I don't have a choice really right now.
Yeah.
So
Yeah, he's going to go from smoking like 2 to 4 cigars a day. It's like, how many did you smoke today? 13.
Right.
They're all 46 ring gauge.
Yeah, they're all Corona. They're all Corona size.
I smoked a pack of cigarettes today.
When Jake is talking about smoking that Lancero of this cigar and having a little bit more of that saltiness to it, being a Lancero and having that salty flavor to it, I think that is something that would appeal probably to some of the older cigar buyers that are looking for that Cuban-esque type flavor.
Yes.
They like the saltiness. They also love those traditional blends like a Lancero.
Yep.
So I can see where the Lancero version of this would be right up their alley.
I think this is very well balanced though, this size. I think it allows those, like Miguel was saying, like kind of like the dark fruit notes, a little bit of the cedar. It's actually like, I mean, medium body, but still rich.
Yeah, very rich.
Yeah.
I would agree with you. And I think it pairs up with what we're drinking right now very well.
That was the segue I was about to do.
Oh,
yeah.
Wow. No, take over. Being the rum expert.
Okay, listen.
How do you spell rum?
First of all, RHUM tonight.
Oh,
Yes.
rum.
Rum.
Okay,
I think it's pronounced the same way. Yeah. So, first of all,
There you go.
I've been on your show several times, and I
Several.
love the Bourbon and BS podcast. But man cannot live on bourbon alone. There
Yes,
must
he-
be other
yes, he
things.
can. Yes, he can.
We'll put that to the
Our
test.
viewers are going down.
This is-
All right,
this is
calm
what I-
down.
This is what I love about you guys. Is I'm not a bourbon drinker. I'm not a Scotch drinker. You don't make me do that. You say, "Hey, Miguel, you're into rum. Bring us a rum." And I've brought many rums to the show, and you guys have always been very open. And I
That's our
think
way to get a free bottle.
there
from
you go. There you go. Let me see the bottle.
Yeah.
Which
So-
is almost gone.
Almost gone, but we gotta get the studio audience drinking some of this.
Yes.
Those are clean glasses right there.
Yep. Go ahead.
And also,
empty the bottle. You empty the bottle.
You can use a dirty glass. I also
Take your
texted you
boots
there.
off and put in your boot.
Jack
There you
and
go.
Tyler, there's pizza there. If you guys are, Kristen sent that to us.
Shout out to Kristen. She's awesome.
Thank you, Kristen.
So let's talk about rum.
Let's talk about rum.
So rum, there's three ways to spell.
Rum.
There's three ways to spell rum, right? RON is the Spanish, RUM is the English,
Yeah.
and tonight it's the French, RHUM. And what's interesting about the rum that I brought tonight is very different from any other rum that I brought on the show before. So the rums that I brought on the show before is like Diplomatico, Zacapa.
Yep.
These are rums
Flor de
from
Caña.
Flor de Caña. Those are rums from Spanish-speaking islands, right? And 99% of rums are what we call rum industrial.
Rob Wilson in the audience.
We've got
Rob,
He's
you wanna
choking.
Rob, you want to pour it in my glass?
Rob really likes ice in his cocktails or his drinks. So neat.
you want some Coke?
Even at what, 84 proof?
Yeah, 84 proof.
So even at 84 proof, it's a bit much for Rob Wilson.
All right, go on. Miguel.
So 99% of rum is rum industrial, meaning it's made from molasses.
Yeah.
1% of rum is made from pure sugarcane juice. And the reason is once you cut sugarcane, it starts going bad right away. So if you're going to make rum with sugarcane juice, you have to have the press house right next to the fields.
Okay.
And there's one set of islands that really specialize in that, and that's the French Caribbean. So we're talking islands like Martinique, Guadeloupe, sometimes Haiti, but Martinique is really the main one. And what I've brought tonight is Clement Rum with an H. This is the 10-year. Now, what's unique about this is, again, this is rum agricole, meaning it's made from pure sugarcane juice, made in a very French style of distilling, that you cannot add coloring on their island. You cannot add sugar. You cannot add anything. So it's basically just the yeast, the sugarcane
Sugarcane.
juice,
Yeah.
water. That's all. And so what we have tonight is a rum agricole, which I've never had on the show before. And this one in particular is made in Martinique. And it's a Grand Reserve, aged 10 years. And what's unique about the island of Martinique is their national drink is called a tea punch, which translates to English as meaning a little punch. It's lime juice. It's demerara sugar, meaning like a nice brown sugar, and then rum agricole. And they that's the local drink. They don't even drink it on ice. They drink it just by itself. But it always starts with this kind of rum. What's interesting about rum agricole is that if you're not a fan of traditional rums, because they're too sweet, they're just not, if you're a whiskey drinker, if you're a Scotch drinker or a bourbon drinker, those things can be too rum. They do say that if you are a fan of those other liquors, then you want to get into rum. This is the way to go.
This is the one.
This bottle retails for about $85.
Oof.
Which is very expensive for most rums. You can get a nice Diplomatico for $40. You can get a nice Zacapa for $45. But when you're talking about the rum agricole, there's a lot more work, a lot more thing, that goes into producing this rum. Because molasses you can sit on for years before you turn it into rum. This you cannot. It needs to go directly there.
I have a question here about, you're talking about prices. You're talking about like Zacapa. Was it 23?
It was
the
Solera.
Well,
So
there's
the
2
Solera.
of them, yeah.
So here I am being a whiskey person, right? I've got Miguel coming over to the house and I want to get a bottle of rum.
Yep.
And I walk into a liquor store and I'm looking at it. I've heard of Diplomatico. And well, for example, I know you, right? So you've been on the show. We've had drinks together outside of that. And I know you like rum. I go in there. I'm like, well, he's had all of this stuff, I'm sure.
Mm-hmm.
But I want to get something nice. A lot of people in cigars are the same way. I want to get something nice. Price point.
Yeah.
Right. If I'm buying a bottle for myself, and even with whiskeys, bourbons, for example, 4 years, right? It's like you see some of these like 10 years.
Yeah.
You see something even states on there aged at least 2 years now. A lot of these things. If I see this sitting next to the Zacapa 23 for what, $40-$50?
Yeah.
And then I see this one sitting next to it, knowing very little about rum.
Yep.
And it says 10-year.
Yep.
And it's double the price.
Yep.
Can you review for people that don't, that didn't see you on the show before? Because I think this is actually interesting, the conversation. I don't know if it translates to the rum with an H.
Yeah, it does. It does.
So how does that work? And again, you can have bourbons that are 4 years versus 4 years sit next to each other, and the same thing, $40, $80. But how does that work with the age statement?
So unfortunately, in the rum industry,
That's cool.
Sorry.
So unfortunately, in the rum industry, there are no there are really very few rules. So when you see a bottle that says 23, there's no ruling body that tells you that rum has to be 23 years old. You could literally have 4, 7, 10-year-old, and then a drop of 23-year-old rum and call it a 23-year-old rum.
Yeah.
So, and they can add sugar, they can add coloring and not have to state it on the bottle. That I would say is one of the downsides of the rum. But what you're looking at with the rum agricole, because it is controlled by the French rules, if you will, that they have set down, which are very strict, the youngest rum in a rum agricole has to be stated on the bottle. So this could have 20, 14, 12-year-old, and 10-year-old rum, but legally, coming from Martinique, they have to put the youngest rum on the bottle.
And that's why on the back it does say aged at least 10
years.
Okay.
And that is not the case for most rums. Now, when we talked about Zacapa, that's a Solera.
Yeah.
And a Solera process is where they continue to add rum to the barrels after the angel share goes away. And that's something that's done in many different spirits.
Yep.
But they keep adding and adding. So it's a basically multiple rums being added to the cask and continue to age together. Age on rum can be very misleading.
All right.
But if you're buying rum agricole, which is only 1% of the rum industry, so it's not the money, it's the Lancero, if you will, of the cigar industry.
There it is.
But you know what you're getting in the bottle. You know the youngest rum in this bottle is 10 years old. And they could literally have a little bit of 25, 30-year-old rum. That's tough to do because when you're in the Caribbean, the heat is so hot there, and the humidity, all of that really, the angel share of rum is much heavier than it would be in a bourbon or in a scotch or something, because you lose so much more. So when you do start getting above 10-year in rum, 10, 15, 20, usually you see Soleras because the angel share is such a massive amount in the Caribbean.
I bet they're losing like up to 10% a year.
Oh, probably.
I mean, bourbon is estimated at 3%.
Yeah.
And I bet being in the Caribbean, I mean, that's Kentucky or normally around the United States, but I bet Caribbean is 10%.
Yeah. And then when you see the Zacapa, for example, what they do in Guatemala is the distilleries at sea level, but they take their rum barrels up into the mountains where it's much cooler. So
That's smart.
So they can get older rums, where when you see a 30-year-old Appleton from Jamaica and you see the bottle's $400, it's because 30 years, you've lost
I don't even want to know.
More than half.
Probably more than 70%.
Oh,
You're
yeah,
probably
there's
out
little
of-
left. Yeah.
I mean, I think a rum barrel, if they're not using bourbon barrels,
Mhm.
I think a rum barrel is like 40 gallons or something like that.
Smaller than the traditional bourbon.
Yeah, bourbon
53
barrel's
gallon.
53. So I mean, I bet. I mean, if they have to do a Solera,
Yeah.
where there's no, I mean, you would have nothing.
Yeah.
After 30 years.
Yeah, and that's why that Appleton 30 years is $300-$400 a bottle, because, which if it was a bourbon, it'd probably be $1,000 a bottle.
Right.
But because of the amount of angel share you lose. But when you are making like Florida Caña or Zacapa, which is in Central America, they've gotten very smart, obviously, and they've decided to age their rums up in the mountains where it's cooler and they lose a lot less. In the Caribbean, you don't have that. Even the mountains in the Caribbean aren't that tall, so you lose a lot of that. And look, I'm a rum fan, and I love turning people on to rum.
Yeah.
And I think that once you understand rum industrial, which is 99% of rum, Bacardi, Zacapa, Florida Caña, Don Pancho, all these great rums out there. Once you understand that, then I think understanding rum agricole and understanding the difference, I think, is very important.
Yes.
Now, I'm very excited to know what you guys think, because none you three are not traditional rum drinkers. Correct. And they do say that if you're not a rum drinker, if you're into good scotches, good bourbons, this is the way to go, because this is going to be closer than a Zacapa or a Diplomatico would be to what you drink.
Yeah. So I did want to show here that we have a one of our somewhat frequent guests, Ann Dimmick, who's been on the show several times.
Yeah.
She works with OHLQ, Ohio Liquor now. She was in the bourbon industry for a long time. She threw up a stat. She's been commenting. So she also said that your explanation was fantastic, spot on.
Thank you.
But she says 1 year of aging in the Caribbean is equivalent to 3 years in Kentucky.
Wow.
So about 9%.
Yeah. So
10.
Yeah.
9-10%.
That's pretty crazy.
Yeah. Well, thank you for that. I don't know her, but man, very cool. I appreciate that. Thank you for the kind words. If you guys
are listening live, make sure you are checking out the comments, because she's spitting some knowledge there too. And I don't want to say it. She said nobody knows, but I'm not going to say that comment out loud because it'll upset, I think, some bourbon.
What?
But if you're listening live, you check out the comments. She threw it out there.
What's another good rum out of Martinique? It's owned by the same company. It's Rum JM. You'll see that in a lot of fine liquor stores as well. It's JM, but in French it would be pronounced GM. But in English, we would say JM. And that is made by the same distiller that makes Martinique, and that's just another brand of theirs. So either Rum JM or GM if it's pronounced, or Clement if you want to try a rum agricole.
Jake, what do you think of this? I mean, you, again, being co-founder of the podcast originally, and it was kind of set up. It's funny how things work, you know. You were the bourbon guy, and I was more the cigar guy, and now, you know, you've had different positions in the cigar world, and it's just now it's kind of, you're still the bourbon guy in a sense.
Well, I mean, I tell everybody that my first love was bourbon.
Yeah.
You know, like we have like Tyler sitting in the audience, Tyler Jones with Espinosa Cigars.
And Jack Tarano.
Love
those guys. Love those guys.
Yes. So I mean, you have Tyler.
Three big companies represented in the old cul-de-sac garage tonight.
Yes, we are.
But that is the cigar community. I mean, that is the culture. The exact reason why, I mean, I think Tyler, all of us have kind of pursued our roles, our own friendships, and why we've pursued these careers.
Yes.
But I mean, like as far as this goes, Clement, right?
Yep.
Correct.
Clement.
Okay.
Yep.
So it was interesting because before, when we were on our way here, Miguel was talking about all the different regions and how different regions taste, you know, their certain way.
Spanish-speaking islands, English-speaking islands, French-speaking islands all have their unique,
Yeah, and it's interesting to taste something like this. And before he even said where the region where this was made, I could almost I could figure out why it was a French-based spirit. And why it tasted it. And the reason why is because, so it's from my taste profile and my palate, it's almost got an Armagnac cognac style finish.
Okay.
It's a very approachable in the sense where it's got those rich, I mean, most of the time you think of rum as, you know, very sweet, very rich, very hearty spirit, right? Because of the sugar cane and molasses and stuff like that. And But with this, it has that floral aspect. It's got those dark fruit notes, and it's very approachable. And it's not, well, for one, it's not going straight to my head like most rums do.
Yep.
Yeah.
It's not as sweet.
Yeah.
And it's very approachable for somebody that does appreciate Scotch or bourbon or Irish whiskey. And it's 84%. And it was interesting when we first tried it on your back patio before the podcast, Steve, where it didn't, I thought it was actually hotter than what I thought, which, I thought it was higher proof. And it was because of that. It wasn't a hearty finish, but it was a clean finish with a little bit of spice behind it.
Yeah.
Kind of crisp or sharp.
Yeah. Yeah. But even at 10 years, it's still, I mean, that's not young by any means.
No.
So it's very rich, but with the clean finish, you would almost think it was younger, but it's very, very well balanced, and it's very approachable for someone like me that loves bourbon. And I really do. I've been a big fan of, I started to be a big fan of Armagnacs.
Yeah.
And how I'm not a big cognac fan because I had a bad experience in college with cognacs, but
Not many people say that.
Yeah, most people aren't having it.
Like
It's usually
Jaeger,
Bacardi.
tequila, Goldschlager.
but I can't.
I had a bad
What?
hey man, Steve, I had a bad experience with Dom Perignon.
Yeah, exactly.
There I was in the back of my rolls. And,
I drank too many bottles.
puking all
of
over.
Dom Perignon.
My
Well, now
butler
we're
had
gonna-
to clean it up. It was terrible. It was
Well, now we're going to start the pinky ring jokes, right?
There we go.
There we go. All right, you brought it up.
No, but so I think as a bourbon drinker and like an Armagnac lover like myself, I love the fact that it's a different style of rum that people aren't normally
Exposed to.
exposed to, and it's fantastic with the cigar as well.
Yeah, I agree. Nate?
So as I drink this, like up front, I don't necessarily get.
I'm really interested in what you're going to say because you've had Zacapa, you've had Diplomatico, you've dabbled in a little rum. So
Yeah.
I'd love to know what you think of this.
Or when we had the bamboo.
Oh, the bamboo, the banana.
Yeah. Oh gosh, that was the wrong bamboo bottle. But no, like I don't necessarily get the dark fruit notes that Jake was getting, but as I drink this up front, the sweetness that I get kind of reminds me more of a candy type of sweetness, but like that lighter, crisper type. I mean, almost like a sweet tart.
Yeah, I
But-
get green apple.
Yeah,
Yeah. That's a good. Yeah, that's a
I
good
was
way to put it. Like,
literally thinking it as
something
you said it.
something really bright and crisp, but with a little bit of sweetness up front.
It does have some plum, Rob. It does have some plum. Little apricot. Apricot.
Apricot. Yes.
Go on, Nate.
Sorry, Nate.
But no, like I think, like if you're someone who's a whiskey drinker primarily, I think this reminds me a little bit more of a Scotch,
Okay.
not necessarily not a peaty Scotch,
right.
But this just because of that sharpness to the finish on it, it
Like
kind of
what
reminds.
Scotch? Sorry to cut you off. I'm just curious.
It's been a little while.
Like a
since-
Glenmorangie?
Yeah,
Like a Highland Scotch?
yes. What was that Glenmore? The orange label.
Well, there was a 10-year, and then there was La Santa, which is the red, and then Quinta Raban,
Quinta Raban.
the green. Yeah, that one. That's yeah. Yeah. You're right on.
I think this is more up a Scotch drinker's alley because if you're a bourbon person, like this doesn't necessarily have the caramel or the corn type of
100%.
sweetness to it.
Yep.
It's going to come across a little bit differently.
Yeah. Very interesting.
And out there. So I was going to say, she's asking coffee, orange peel, warm vanilla bean. You guys get any of that?
Warm vanilla bean.
I can see the vanilla.
Yep. I think vanilla is a very common flavor you'll pick up in rums.
Mhm.
That comes a lot from the barrels.
Yes.
Yeah.
The sugar that you get on this is more what I would call Demerara sugar, which is a deep dark brown natural sugar, opposed to something that's been refined that you may get in something like a Diplomatico, where you get that sweetness. It tastes like sugar, where this is more of a dark, deep brown sugar, unrefined, and then you get that crisp apple on the end. So I would agree with a lot of that.
I get the orange peel.
Yeah.
I see the orange peel. I'm stuck on the fruits. I really am with this. It's really amazing.
So I'm gonna dumb it down here a little bit. I'm gonna do USA Today this thing here. This Everyone's fucking comparing this. I love this. I mean, I
CNN?
I agree with this. No,
You-
I'm not going there.
Oh, okay.
Easy.
Easy.
Let's everyone calm down here, all
So
right?
it's not false information.
Stop it.
Oh, okay.
Stop it.
There's a
I
great
wish
Saturday
the,
Night
I
Live
wish the
skit.
board wasn't that far away. I'd cut his mic for a second. No,
We can just ask someone in the
everyone's
audience.
comparing it to fucking everything else. I get the whole thing about if you don't like rum or if you like something else, this is a great entryway into the rum world.
Yep.
Which just listening to you guys talk, I agree with a lot of flavor notes. My point is that you're trying to sell someone on a different spirit.
Yep.
But if this is so different, like if I'm listening, like if I was out in the audience, I'm listening to this, I'm like, so it doesn't taste like rum.
Mm-hmm.
So you're saying this is an entryway to rum, but all you're doing is talking about scotch, bourbon,
It's a good
whiskey,
point.
everything
Yeah.
else. It's like,
Yeah.
stop trying to sell me on it. This still, I mean, like Jack's shaking his head, it doesn't taste like rum. I would guess if this was a blind taste test, I wouldn't guess bourbon, I wouldn't guess scotch. I'd still be like, it's rum, but like it's different. Like it's
Yeah.
got that sweetness. I've got a little bit of like, it's
I would have
the
guessed
vanilla,
an
like,
Armagnac. I really would.
really. And
Yeah.
I don't have
if,
much experience.
if I
with
did a
those,
blind, I swear I would have guessed an Armagnac.
though. I don't have much experience with those. I'm
Well-
just
Yeah.
with this. It's still rum to me.
Mhm.
And I think you do have. And I know you're talking about this is a very small percentage on the process.
1%.
1%. But it's like I've had the Diplomatico. Is it Guatemalan, right?
Guatemala.
Guatemala.
Diplomatic is Venezuela.
Venezuela.
Mhm.
Guatemala's big, Zacapa, right?
Zacapa, yep.
So you
Zaya,
have those, and then I've had a lot of Cuban rums,
Yep.
and they do different things with that. And we're getting to the point now, I feel like, in what our bread and butter is, which is bourbons. You can't, like, you probably can tell what like classic bourbon, we've had some that I'm like, this is like what I think of when I think of like a basic bourbon. But with all the finishes, with all the different ages, with all the
Barrel,
different, like, oh, this was in 4 different barrels in its lifetime. I'm like, okay, cool. So this isn't, yes, it's technically bourbon, but this doesn't taste like bourbon.
Yeah.
Basil Hayden's big on that. They really pushed that envelope, I think. It's like, yeah, no, it's a bourbon. Like, doesn't taste like bourbon. You know what I mean? Well, this is a good entryway if you like wine, because, if you like wine, you
Yeah,
like
yeah,
bourbon.
yeah.
Like the
do
dark
this. It's like,
rye or-
oh, I maybe I do like bourbon. And then it's like, well, try this one. Try Buffalo Trace. You're like, oh God, it's lighter fluid. Like, what the fuck is that? You know what I mean?
Yeah.
So I think this, to me, for those viewers, listeners that are out there, that I would say are a little bit more on that more basic level of just trying different stuff. I think this is pretty good. I don't think it tastes like anything else other than maybe a different style rum, which is when you gave the explanation.
Yep.
That's what it is. And
Yep.
I'm not trying to go against anything what you guys said.
No,
I
no,
think
I'm with you.
It's all valid points.
Yep.
I do like this.
Now at $85 a bottle, though.
This is
It's
where
not
I
necessarily an entry.
yeah.
Right.
So
The finish on this would steer me away from the $85. We'll get to the ratings
Yeah,
here
yeah.
just momentarily, but I would say, yeah, the price there. But when you explain it, that's why I asked that question, to kind of revisit it.
Yeah.
And I didn't know the answer about that, knowing that this is a truer 10-year experience.
Yeah. And on top of that is the way they produce it. As I was saying before, is that if you're 99% of the rum out there and you're making your rum from molasses, which is a byproduct of producing sugar, either from sugar beets or sugar cane, that molasses can sit around for years before you use it.
right.
And when you're using fresh pressed sugarcane juice,
Yeah.
there is no waiting around. It gets cut and it gets taken right to the pressing. So there's a little bit more art, a little bit more craft to it, right?
A little more speed.
Yeah, a little
behind
bit
it.
more speed to it. And then obviously with the French and their history of liquor and how they produce, there's a little bit more attention to it, right? There's a
Mhm.
little bit less room for error. And what is beautiful about the Caribbean and beautiful about the rum is that when the language that the island speaks can tell you a lot about their rum culture.
Mhm.
So when you're talking Jamaica, Barbados, it's a little bit more of a fuller bodied rum, because the English who colonized those islands, they like the stronger, more robust rum.
Yeah.
When you're talking Spanish islands, the Bacardi family or Bacardi family from Cuba had such a big influence on Spanish-speaking islands with rum producing that it's
Don't pay
a
attention to the audience.
smooth, a very crisp, a very mild rum, and that was what made. So when you drink rum from a Spanish-speaking island like Cuba, like Puerto Rico, you're getting rums, or Dominican, you're getting much lighter rums, because that's the tradition the Spaniards wanted. And then when you go to an English island, they like the more robust, what we call a Navy style rum, a little fuller, and then the pot stills are using in Jamaica are more copper, which gives it a little what we in the rum world would call a Jamaican funk. And then the French islands are a little bit more like Armagnac or Cognac, and it's so much influenced by who colonized that area that it gives you a lot of feedback on what that is, and I think that's why rum is so diverse. It's such a diverse spirit,
and I think that I agree with you. I much more like the layman's terms on my side of it is that it is different. Like if you were selling me on. If I was a bourbon drinker only, right? Yeah. You're like, oh, this is like it's a little bit more like Scotch and bourbon, like certain bourbons and stuff like that. And I'm like. It's a terrible bourbon. What the fuck are you talking about? Like again, like like I'm looking for a 4-door. Like 2-door's got a big back seat. Like what? Yeah. No. Yeah. Like I'm not looking for that. Yeah. So
this particular rum reminds me more of the Florida Cognac 12 than when we had the Zacapa Solera
100%
or the Diplomatico, 100%. Just because it doesn't have, like you said, that English style thick, heavy. It's that more crisp, clean, lighter, clean finish type of rum.
Yeah, and it's definitely not at $85 a bottle, and you may be able to find it for $75 in certain states, but it's not an entry level rum. This is what a lot of people in the rum world consider,
which again is ironic based on you guys saying this is your entry to
but
rum.
I think if you're a bourbon and you're a Scotch drinker, this not entry level price, but this would be a great way if you wanted to diversify what you drank. This may be a little bit easier for your palate to discern, opposed to a Diplomatico or something.
I understand what you guys are saying.
That's completely. Too sweet.
I'm just so curious about like the barrel process, as far as like what.
Next time that you guys are on, maybe Miguel will have a little bit more information on that.
Well,
let's everyone. All right.
Listen.
Sorry.
Well, first of all,
we'll let you guys know next time these boys are on, we can learn a little bit more about the barrel process.
Well, no, we were actually talking about the barrel, and when you're down in the Caribbean, you see a lot of bourbon barrels because the bourbon has these rules, which I love. And the bourbon, you can only use the barrel once,
right?
And some people may not know that. I'm sure you're
they go all over. The Caribbean's the biggest, actually.
The Caribbean buys up all these bourbon barrels, refires them, and uses them in rum. And I was telling Jake that I've been to quite a bit of distilleries in the Caribbean, and it's amazing how many barrels are being delivered that say bourbon on them, Kentucky,
right?
And those barrels are being reused for rum, and in the rum industry, there's no rules. We use it till it leaks, what I mean? And but it's nice, and I always thank you for allowing me to introduce some people to some new rums, because I do think rum gets a bad rep, but I do think that there are rums out there that true cognac, bourbon, whiskey, Armagnac drinkers can get into and really appreciate the rum culture.
Yep.
And in the United States, in the colonial days, the most common spirit drank was rum.
Don't drop the mic, like physically.
I will not drop the mic.
Thank you. We only have 4. This is the time we're going to wrap up part 1. We're going to do the ratings. So out of 10, it says on the screen whiskey. We're going to obviously talk about the Clement Rum. But yeah, so out of 10 being the best. What?
No.
Oh, you're giving. Yeah.
Is this like the pairing, or is it?
So there's 3.
You've done this before.
I don't think I have.
Yeah, because
when?
The last time you were on, you had the Angel's Envy cask strain.
Yeah, I don't remember that.
Yeah. So 10 out of 10. So 10 being the best. Are you listening to the rules?
Yeah.
10 out of 10 is the best, right? 10 being the best, you rate the rum. Then you also have a 10 out of 10 or out of 10 rating of the cigar, and out of 10 rating for the pairing.
Understood.
Cool. Miguel, go ahead.
On the rum, I myself have only been dabbling in agricole rums for the last 10 years. Before that, it's all been mostly Spanish-speaking rums or Spanish-speaking island rums. So I would actually give this an 8. Right. I think in the rum world, Clement is one of the top producers of quality, consistency. Everything that's in that bottle. There's no funny games. I give that an 8 out of 10.
Okay. Luciano. the
And
Dreamer.
Luciano cigar, I would give a 9 out of 10.
Okay.
And the reason I give it a 9 out of 10, I like to judge cigars on the idea of me enjoying it. And if I sit it down and I want to light another one, that to me is a great cigar individually. It could be any cigar. I don't care what cigar you love, but if you smoke the cigar you like and you sit it down and you go, I think I could have another one of those.
Yeah.
You know, and we've got some good friends here in the audience, and my good friends that work for Espinosa, they have a cigar called L'Orange.
Of all of the
Naranja. That I remember the first time I smoked a L'Orange from Espinosa, and you were done with it, and you go, man, I'd love to have another one of those. That to me is what really makes a cigar special. And this is a blend that I can smoke. I smoke 2 back to back, and that is what I really enjoy about a cigar.
I can see that. How about the pairing?
The
Out of
pairing
10.
I think is good. I would give it more of a 7 because I do
Okay.
think there are other cigars that would pair it better with this.
And vice versa with the bottle to the
Yep. And
Yeah.
I actually, if it was in my family of cigars, I think Mil Diaz would maybe pair up a little bit better, but we've done Mil Diaz on a different show.
Sure.
So I wanted to try something different. And this pairing thing, I find it very interesting.
Good. Jake?
So as far as like the Clement, I mean, like I said, I'm pretty new to like the rum game. The experience is like what I go for, right?
Mhm.
So I think as far as like an experience and being very interesting and it being something where it wasn't what I was expecting, I hold that in a little higher regard than I would like something where I was expecting of it to taste that way.
Mhm.
So I would definitely give this, I would give it a 7.
Okay.
And the reason why is as far as the price point goes, I know that there's a lot of effort and curation and everything that goes into making a fine product and a fine spirit like this. But as somebody that wants to drink more of it, I don't know if the price really
You wouldn't rebuy it necessarily.
maybe for a special occasion,
Okay.
but I'm not going to go back. And maybe if Miguel comes and spends a weekend at my place
There
or
you go.
something, I would buy it,
Sounds
but
like
it's
an
not
invite
going to be
right
a
there.
normal thing on my shelf.
Okay.
As far as the Luciano goes, I mean, like, I'll be honest, and I got to keep my words correct here a little bit. Obviously, the boss is here.
Not for me.
So, but
Speak from the heart, man.
so I think I'm not a big Sumatra fan. I haven't been for a long time, but with the longer fermentation, the darker wrapper, the richer nuances of the cigar, and the saltiness. Miguel on the way here, we talked about how I don't like a real like salty, zesty nuance of a cigar. But with just the hint of the Costa Rican and the filler, it adds a great balance to this cigar. So I would give the cigar an 8 as well.
How about the pairing?
So I'd give the pairing a 6 because I'm a bourbon guy.
Yeah.
So, like, that's what's the highest? Like, obviously, that's not a 10 scale then for you if it's not bourbon.
Yeah.
Cool. Nate.
So on the rum, I'm gonna be an 8 on the rum.
Oh, wow. Okay.
I do really enjoy this. While I enjoyed the Diplomatico and the Zacapa Solera that we had, because those were some of the first rums I had, like, I kind of liked that sweetness to them.
Yep.
But as I've drank more rums, I actually appreciate more the ones that don't have
The additives.
the added sugar or the coloring or anything like that. Because you're literally drinking what went into the barrel and came out.
Yeah.
There's nothing else.
The way
added
God
to it.
intended it to be.
Yeah, there you go. But no, this has a really good flavor. It's kind of a little bit delicate, softer type of flavor, but really crisp, and it's very enjoyable. As far as the cigar, I'm also an 8 on the cigar. Like, for me, this would be either like an earlier in the day type of cigar because it's medium. So typically when I'm smoking cigars throughout the day, like if I'm going to have multiple cigars, I'll work my way higher up in strength as the day goes on.
Yeah.
So for me, this would be something like earlier in the day. But what's also interesting is because of the saltiness of this cigar,
Mm-hmm.
this is also something that I would like to have at night with a whiskey or a rum, not necessarily because of the flavor and strength of the cigar, but because of that saltiness.
Yeah.
For the pairing, I give it a 9 because this kind of reminds me a little bit. The pairing with this kind of reminds me a little bit more of another Ace Prime cigar, the Fiat Lux.
Oh, one of your favorites.
Because when I first smoked the Fiat Lux, Steve and I smoked it together. We were drinking whiskey, drinking bourbon while smoking that cigar. And it was interesting because every time I would smoke the cigar and then go to the bourbon, it was like I was taking the first sip of that bourbon.
Oh, nice. Very nice.
Because that saltiness just kind of cleansed the palate a little bit.
100%.
So that way, you got all those flavors. Your palate wasn't used to it.
Yeah.
So everything was the first time. This does that same type of thing.
Very nice.
So 8 rum, 8 cigar, 9 pairing.
Fantastic.
Very nice.
I'm going to give the Clement a 7.5. I think I'm a little different from you guys just on my viewpoint of what the product is. I think this is something that it is different than what I've had. I enjoyed it. It's interesting because I did learn, joking aside, the H in there. Obviously, I've had the Cuban rum, and I think a lot of people are like, man, there's a lot of like distilleries that are run by a guy named Ron. Like, it's just like a common Cuban name. I mean, a lot of people don't know that. I mean, they truly don't. They're like, why is it that?
Yeah. Who's this guy, Ecto Amano, man? Hecto is a good, really, he's on his name's on every cigar brand.
Yeah. It's like the king of the industry. But I think, so I do like it. 7.5, I think I said. It's enjoyable. The finish, and maybe it's the cigar. When we did have the first pour out back, it didn't have that. So I think the cigar might have given a little bit drier finish to me. And again, out of rums, I don't expect that a lot of times based on just the ingredients of what's in the bottle, right?
Is this your first agricole?
Yes.
Okay.
Yes. Yeah.
I thought it was really good with the Luminosa.
Yeah, it was.
I enjoyed that.
So the cigar, I like it. I'm going to give it an 8.5. I think this is a nice cigar. It's an every person's cigar.
Yeah, I would agree.
This is not going to be too strong, too light. This is like a medium bodied. You've got some of those classic flavors in there. The saltiness, and this is my opinion, obviously, for those that are listening, you keep hearing the saltiness. It's not a salty flavor. You brought the Fiat Lux. I think that has a more pronounced saltiness to it, a lighter cigar. This has just like a little bit of a hint. I mean, it's almost like you're smoking the cigar. It's an interesting blend for me because it does have a little bit of a drier finish, but then it also, with the saltiness, kind of gets your mouth watering a little bit. So that's actually a good thing, I think, and speaks to what Miguel was talking about with wanting to, not necessarily wanting to, but wouldn't mind lighting up a second one.
Yeah.
Because you can light up a second one because, it's got an experience as you draw and you blow it out, rest for a second. And then there's that, just what they keep talking about, saltiness. For those of you out there, it is a little bit more of like that food side of it. You add salt to it, and it gets you salivating a little bit.
Yeah.
So there is it's not hints, but there's a lighter side of the experience where it has a pronounced finish, but then all of a sudden you still have that little lingering bit of the saltiness where you're just like, I'm going to take another draw.
Yeah.
Because there are cigars out there that you have a bitter or a dry finish, and you're just like, I'm just smoking to get rid of that finish. Like, Jesus.
And
Christ.
the saltiness, it's good you pointed out, because it's not salty as in like you're dumping salt on French fries. It's like you're next to the ocean and you can almost smell or taste a little bit of that salt in the air. Yeah.
So the pairing, I'm going to give an 8. I think the pairing, it's a nice pairing. It doesn't, I don't think it takes away. The only thing that really keeps it at that 8 level is the fact that I think it kind of dried out the finish of the rum for me in between. And again, I was pacing it. We didn't have much, so you guys.
We finished the whole bottle on the show.
Table, I get it.
Well, first of all, I want to thank all the viewers too, because I've been on your show. Every time I've been on a show, you guys have allowed me to bring rum. So if any of your viewers really like to know more about rum, check out the other episodes I've been on, because we've always featured a rum. And I do think that part of being friends, is smoking other people's cigars, being introduced to other things. And the God's honest truth is that now that Jake is working with us and he's so passionate about bourbon, and we've been in the car together the last 2 or 3 days, all of a sudden he's talking about bourbon the way I talk about rum, and I'm with him every day, and I'm going, maybe I want to explore the bourbon world.
Yeah,
Right?
and I feel like that about rum now.
Yeah, and it's neat. And again, I want to thank you guys for always allowing me to bring a little rum to the show. And it's
You
always
bring more than that.
It's always an
You
honor.
bring
to be
more
on
than
your
that.
We
show.
always
worry.
allow any guest to bring a bottle. So.
That's nice. Beautiful.
All right, and with that, what are we sipping on next here? Since you guys, we're gonna do that, or
are-
we want to do something else?
We can do this if you want. It's up to you.
It's up to you.
Yep. Well,
You
I
brought
say
it.
the hell with it. So
All right.
All right.
I got a cheers with something in my glass, so
all right.
I'll pass my glass down.
So
Okay.
I'm the only one still with the rum. And
Shoot it.
All right.
I was sipping on
Why
one
is the
glass
rum
the
always
entire-
gone? In the words of Jack Sparrow,
Jack Sparrow.
just
Great-
a tad,
great man.
just a little bit.
Coming back, I hear.
Okay.
Just a little bit.
Hey, that's still half the size of a typical Miguel pour.
All right,
That's true.
everyone. Happy Whiskey Wednesday. I want to thank our sponsors.
Thirsty
as we round
Thursday.
out. Yeah, well, it's still Whiskey Wednesday in my heart. I'm not going to know it's Friday tomorrow. It's fine. Tinder Box at Easton in Columbus, Ohio. Carry a lot of the Crown Heads products, so check them out. Miguel loves
That wake
the
you up?
whiskey. Altadis USA for the continued support, and typically the second cigar of the night. BS Cigar Company, the gold and silver are available. You guys at patreon.com/bourbon&bs podcast. You guys are amazing. You can always check that out if you guys want to do a monthly contribution. Buy us a bottle, Venmo at Bourbon and BS. Venmo at Bourbon and BS. And join us on all the social media as well. You can watch this live on Facebook. You can watch it on YouTube live as well. They stay up. It's on all the podcast apps. So as Miguel was saying that, if you want to hear some of the previous episodes, I make it a point to, in the description, in the title, subtitles, that you can search by company name the best I can. You can search by Miguel Chodell, and it should pop up all of the podcasts he's been on with us and other podcasts as well, because a lot of our guests do other podcasts in the industry, mostly
Nice.
cigar.
Very nice.
But check them out. If you like one of our guests, definitely reach out to us if you guys want to learn more about their brand, and also any questions you guys may have. So, guys, happy Thirsty Thursday.
Oh my God. All right.
Cheers.
Cheers.
Stay tuned for part 2. We're going to do a quick intermission. I think we're going to rearrange the camera, so bear with us as we do that. We might have some more people on here, and we will see where this conversation goes. These guys don't know what the topic is, I don't think, but the topic tonight is, do you rewrap your burrito? Think about that in the next 10 minutes.
I've been thinking about it for the last 2 hours.
Can be. All right, guys.
Thank you, guys.
Cheers, guys.
Thank you so much.
That should be enough. I do want to, guys, you guys weren't listening last week, but I brought it up. So our guest last week, Stephanie Bear from Stellum and Barrel Spirits. So there was this conversation last week about, they brought up the note of sorghum, and I'm like,
Yeah.
they're just talking like it's like everyone knows what it is. Like,
Yeah.
what the fuck is sorghum? So we had this whole conversation about sorghum. I don't know, Rob, Jack, Todd, you guys know what sorghum is?
Is it sorghum or sargum?
It's SORGHUM.
Sort of.
So what was funny about it is that so I'll tell you, it is it's sweeter, yeah. But they were talking about it as a tasting note. I'm like, what are you guys talking about? So they tried to give me a crash course on it.
Stephanie brought it up. I understood what it was.
Stephanie emailed me after the show. Hey guys, the next day, thank you so much for having me. What address can I send something? I want to send a thank you that's relevant to our conversation. So there's this True Treats out of West Virginia that is a historical candy
Sweetener place.
sweet place. And so she sent us sorghum sweets. And it is, the first thing is Sorghum Molasses. And it has a little history for those that are out there. This is only for the intermission. The delicious sorghum arrived in the U.S. with enslaved people who used it for food and fiber. In 1853, a U.S. patent officer discovered it in France. He, among others, thought it would replace cane sugar with its ties to slavery. After the war, it was an everyman sweetener from bootleggers during Prohibition to small farmers in the South.
Yeah, it's sargum.
Sorghum.
That I don't know. I've always heard in the bourbon
So I've got
industry it pronounced sargum.
Sorghum or sorghum sweets for everyone to try. It's a hard candy. This will get you amped up. For
Is this like the Werther originals?
Well, you tell me.
Remember that?
So thank you, Stephanie.
Yes,
Yeah,
thank you.
yeah. It's only got
It's all
Sorghum
sugar.
Molasses,
It's literally
cane
sugar.
corn syrup, and caramel color. So yeah, I don't think there's much. It's light.
It's
Light.
it's sugar condensed.
Jake,
Thank you.
there you go.
Thank you very much. Yeah, this is what they used to flavor like neutral grain spirits with in Prohibition. It's very interesting.
Sorghum. It's not sugar.
Very, very interesting.
I thought it was too funny that she sent this.
That's
Well,
hilarious.
thank you.
order.
Thank you
That's
so
a
much,
small
Stephanie.
bag. Yeah, I was like,
That's great,
that's amazing.
Stephanie,
Yeah.
thank you.
Yes.
especially after they sent us 2 bottles of whiskey.
Yeah. And candy now.
I just was gonna say, like, I can't, like, after how long has it been? How many years? When did we start this, Steve? Like,
Well, so episode 229. So episode 208 would have been 4 years. So that means
geez, criminy.
So that means last week's episode, or no, 208 plus 26. So 234 will be 4.5 years.
Wow.
So we're a month away from 4.5 years of the podcast.
I mean, I was telling Tyler this the other day. I just can't believe like how fast, like the experience and like what the idea came from, like when Steve and I started this and how this all began and like what it's become, and like obviously like Nate and the help of like Dustin back in the day and like Kyle Smith and like what you, Nate, and obviously like Steve has done with this. It's pretty amazing to see the whole thing transpire, especially like from the outside looking in. So
we've made a lot of changes, and a lot of those changes actually came as a result of COVID.
Yeah.
Longtime listeners of the podcast will remember that it was back in March of 2020 was the first time we started doing the ratings.
Right.
Yep. And that was the first time we started doing the ratings. That was the first time we started using StreamYard. And when we started using the StreamYard because of the shutdown, we weren't having people in the garage. So that actually made it easier for us to have certain guests on, because a lot of times when we're, trying to do a podcast and trying to line up a guest, we were trying to line up a guest that was going to be in town.
Right.
So if it was a cigar rep, they're trying to plan their schedule around being in Columbus, Ohio on a Wednesday. If it was a whiskey rep, a lot of them were people that were local, or we happened to catch them while they were in town and spoke to them and, made them an offer to come on the podcast. Doing the StreamYard, that's how we were able to have Alan Rubin on the podcast. We had Nick Perdomo on the podcast. Alan, the father. I'm sorry, Alan Rubin of Alec Bradley.
The real
Cigars.
Alan, the real Alan Rubin.
We were able to have Rocky Patel on the podcast remote, which that was a great night because we had Rocky, and then we also had Rob Wilson, who is our local Rocky rep
In the house.
which he's in the studio audience right now. But yeah, we had him and Rocky both on the podcast remote, and we were drinking Monkey Shoulder. And Rob doesn't remember that night. He doesn't remember the live events, but he's gone back since then and watched the video, and he remembers that way.
Doesn't that suck? I can tell you from experience.
The same way.
I think Nook can tell us about his experience too.
Oh yeah.
Uh-huh.
Every cigar rep that comes in here has a story about doing the
I wanted to
podcast.
take my pants off and wear shorts, so that's where I ended up.
Are you serious?
Yep.
Hey,
Your
Miguel,
pants off.
real quick.
over
So
the
one of our
can.
listeners.
Yep.
What would you say are like your top 3 entry level rums under $60?
Ooh, good question.
I would. There's a lot of the rums I mentioned. Diplomatico would be one. I would do Bacardi 10 year. And I think I would probably throw in there Zacapa. I think those three, would be a great way to try out a rum, sub probably $55 to get into the rum world. Those are all three rums from Spanish-speaking islands, so they do have a distinct flavor. I think you can reach out a little bit, try like a Appleton XO or something of that nature. Florida Canya as well.
One of our listeners who's in Illinois,
Tusalem's good as well. Great rum.
One of our listeners from Illinois is actually drinking Appleton 8-year reserve.
Oh, fantastic. Appleton's a great Jamaican rum. Jamaica is known for using copper pots, pot stills, and Jamaica, as we would say. And I think what you would look at there is that there is a Jamaican funk to their rums.
So Diplomatico, Zacapa, and what was the other?
Bacardi 10 years.
Bacardi 10.
Yeah,
I love Diplomatico. Diplomatico is such a great rum.
I'd had so many that sweetness just hit me too heavy.
Yeah.
And then I had Diplomatico.
But Miguel, you said they do add like sugar
Diplomatico
and
definitely.
coloring, right?
Some do. The coloring is more on a little bit lower end rums.
Okay.
But what you will see is in Zacapa and Diplomatico, you will taste a sweetness that is definitely coming from a sugar added post coming out of the barrels.
Yeah.
Yep.
And we've talked about it before with you on.
You won't find that with Florida Canya. You won't find that with Martinique and some of those other ones.
Yeah.
What did Jack just try the Nulu?
Much better.
What?
Oh.
Much better. What is this one? What's the one you did?
Martinique.
Are we on the air?
Yeah.
If you want to speak into the mic, yes.
Yeah. I just want to make sure what it is.
You got to get
Clement.
So
Oh.
on your out of 10 scale,
3.
That would still not be the lowest rating ever on the podcast. I have that claim to fame.
had notes of poplar.
Well, it is a French.
Right, it's the French.
Yeah.
So
Interesting.
So with you and with Miguel and Jack both being with that mic, you guys got to make sure whichever one of you is going to talk, like
Spin it.
grab the mic and get up to it.
Okay.
A few inches.
Like
I mean,
How you doing?
there you go, like that. You guys act like
Yeah.
you two need to act like you've worked together before.
Crossing swords here, baby.
You look at the screen like I'm like off to the side.
That's why
Like,
you beat me
put out
to
all
it,
these
Miguel.
guys.
You beat me to it.
There's a lot of double wraps around the table here.
Nice.
What?
Can we get Jake to stand up for the camera?
No,
It would be nice.
they can see it on the camera.
Oh, and
No,
and
not
we
with that
posted
They can
pic-
see
and we
the-
posted pictures.
not with the
of
Oh,
it.
they're right. Well, I don't know. Jonathan Herring sent me a picture, and he's like, I missed this view.
Oh, God.
We did send it to Jonathan Herring.
Oh, okay. That's how he. Never mind.
Jonathan Herring
Yeah,
is
let
one
me
of the
move
top
it.
50
Yeah, you definitely.
guys I like.
No, it got dark. Yes,
No,
it's fine.
Top 50.
You can't see it. All right. Well, onward on this potentially long evening.
Potentially.
Mm-hmm.
Well,
So what are we drinking here?
So this
Yeah.
is
The
Nulu,
old
and it was the
Nulu.
Party Source pick that when we were down at Party Source doing the
Rob
event.
Wilson was on. We
And,
wouldn't need a mic.
It's a toasted version, so they put it in a toasted barrel as a secondary aging process. And from your reaction, it's a little hot.
It is very hot.
It's 114 proof,
Oh,
so it's
Same as-
57%
same as-
alcohol.
100 from an 80.
From an 84 to
84.
114. So we're going up 30 proof points.
And it's a little young. It's aged 4 years and 6 months,
Okay.
but tasty.
It's warmer. That lights up
It's
your nose.
warm. There it goes.
Gets you right in the cockles. Your cockles are your cockles. Yeah.
Oh,
It's a Chicago thing. I have no understanding.
It's fine.
You're from Chicago, too, right?
Sean Anderson, can I get any more folks on the screen? No, not currently. I need to get longer wires, cables. I don't know, more
She
cameras,
said.
longer cables.
this is amazing. Are you watching the end of this table?
Are they touching?
This is a heavyweights over here, bro.
Oh, heavy petting. All right.
Can I potentially have some more water by chance?
It's in the fridge behind Tyler.
That's right.
Oh, no. Steve's
I've been
got it.
drinking.
Waterboy.
Yeah. No, I got it.
Water
I didn't have as
bud.
much rum as you guys. I just kept pouring water.
Try to change that in part 2.
Thank you.
Hey, Tyler, you mind filling this Sabrita?
Make yourself useful.
Tyler
rather than merely
Jones.
ornamental.
No, we wanted to get Tyler on here as well. I just we aren't.
Knuckles sandwich.
Didn't Tyler get beat up by Eric Espinosa on one of these shows, and then he
Oh.
might get hired by him or something?
No, he was already. You already working for him.
It was no, yeah, you were. You had just started.
No.
Was that when I had Eric call in?
Yeah. So Tyler was talking shit about beating Eric Espinosa in dominoes.
Yeah.
And then you during the intermission,
I was texting Eric.
And so you
And I
said,
said, "Hey
Eric,
man, are you doing anything tonight right now? I was gonna see if I could get you in here." Tyler's talking shit about you guys playing dominoes, and he's like, "Yeah, absolutely." So I sent him the invite to the stream and everything like that, and Tyler was a little red.
Yeah.
A little red.
because as soon as we
No,
start,
well, what I said was,
Was that the Willett Saints and Sinners?
I don't remember. No, not that one. That was
Okay.
way earlier.
yeah, as soon as we start part 2, Steve's like, "Hey, we got a special guest joining us remote." And Tyler's eyes just, "Whir."
Yeah.
Fair.
I hear you talking shit about me.
All right, let's do this before we lose the night here.
What time is it?
It doesn't matter what time it is.
9:45. Nice.
9:45.
Still doing okay. No, it's not.
We're doing okay. We're an hour and a half into it.
You just need another drink.
All right, let's take a little breather here.
Okay, that's good.
God damn it,
I gotta
Rob.
go back and splice this, man. That's why we do it.
Sorry.
We wasted the good surprise on you.
Silence.
Welcome back to the Bourbon and BS podcast, everyone. This is episode 229, part 2, Beyond the BS. If you are just now joining us, the screen has included more people. We have another special guest, good friend of the show, good friend of everyone at the table. Miguel, go ahead. Yeah,
An erotic,
talking.
You just got
an
talking.
erotic novel writer,
Enthusiast. I will be reading an excerpt in a little while.
Oh,
Man,
boy.
I'm looking forward to that.
So
You won't
Jack
be able to stand
Tarano,
up.
for those that don't know that voice, Jack Tarano is Sean Anderson says shit long intermission. Yeah, I know. That's some stuff. That's
Said
some
like
stuff.
3 people take bathroom breaks.
Jack Tarano is joining us from Espinosa Cigars. Tyler Jones is in the audience. Sorry, we only have 4 mics. This is still a garage show.
Come here, big boy.
If you ever seen
Come
Wayne's
here,
World,
big
it's similar. We do out of the garage. We've got Rob Wilson in the audience. If you guys from Rocky Patel Cigars, they've both been on the show several times. We love it. Rob backed out the last time. It was too hot.
See if I come back again after this. That's
I'll talk to Jack about it. But if you guys do have something to say, I will offer my mic to you. You can't get on the camera,
Don't worry.
but all right. You
Wow.
can
Tyler's-
comment on the feed there. if you
Tyler's supposed to come back on because we have to feature the knuckle sandwich Maduro.
want. Oh, yeah.
Because last time we had the Habano.
Well, there's a new size too.
Yes. Okay. You could be on.
You guys starting your own podcast? All right. So tonight,
What's it
we
called?
are-
Bald and thinning?
I'm offended. All right. People are listening.
Liquor.
Some, not
Yes,
not
yes,
as many at this point. We have switched over to a bourbon at this point. What'd you guys think of that sorghum candy?
Very,
Miguel, did you get one of
very
those?
good.
No, I did not.
Would you like one from our previous guest?
It would help
It
with
was
the
brought
bourbon.
from slaves. I don't know if you want to eat this.
I think you misheard the description.
Oh, I heard something about slaves. I don't
Oh
know.
my God. Jesus.
There you go. COVID's not around anymore, so they can hand it to you. It's fine.
Pass it down.
Oh, good. Did you guys wash
Mouth
your
to
hands?
mouth, all the way down.
This is a sorghum sweet.
What is this, Vegas again?
Sorghum.
Oh, sorghum.
It's molasses. It's hard
Put it
molasses.
under your tongue and let it dissolve. You'll be fine.
It'll dissolve by about 3 in the morning.
Does this smell like
Miguel won't
chloroform?
leave my house. I don't know what's happening. Like he's not bad. No, for those that didn't hear the intermission and those listening on the part 2, that was a great gift from last week's guest, Stephanie from Stellum Spirits and Barrel Craft or Barrel Spirits. That came up on the show, sorghum. I didn't know what that was. So we had a brief conversation about it. then she asked me, hey, I want to send you guys a thank you. It was great. It's really relevant to our conversations. This showed up today at the shop. I opened it up, and it's from a shop in West Virginia. Has a little history about it and everything. It's really a cool thing. So thank you very much, Stephanie.
It's actually
And-
enjoyable.
Yeah,
Yeah, it's good. It's hard candy. Don't
better than that rum.
bite down.
It's just hard molasses.
Better than that rum. We have Jake Sanders, co-founder of the Bourbon BS podcast, now with Crowned Heads in the garage. Miguel Chodell still joining us here. Like I said, Jack Tarano is now joining us. They're in town. They decided they warned me that they were going to crash the podcast. And then they bought tickets to the event last night.
It was great.
I feel a lot of love, though. I mean, when you got Tyler in town, I mean, we see Tyler all the time, but when Jack's in town, you guys had an event tonight. I hope it went well.
It went great.
Do you guys expense something like that? Like, how does that work?
Well, Jack made a point to say, make sure that receipt doesn't say that it was for a Crown Heads event.
Yeah, exactly.
You just said it on air.
Eric's not listening.
Yeah, Jake, keep giving Luciano a 7. You'll see how long you last.
No, in fact, that picture, though.
No, I
we
gave
had-
it an 8.
We
I
did have a
did.
picture of all of you guys and even Willie from Gurkha.
Yeah.
And Eric commented on the Bourbon and BS community page. He's like, "Where was my invite?" I was like, "Talk to Tyler." So tonight, part 2. If you guys are listening for the first time, part 2 is a little different than most cigar bourbon podcasts. We talk about life. This is Beyond the BS. And we have different life topics every week, and we drink and talk about it. And it's been interesting several times. Yeah, last time Jack was on, we had a aspiring romance novelist. And yeah, I think you learned a lot that night.
She was pretty.
Well, so is Jake.
What?
No,
Wow.
Was it the hair?
Tyler's pretty.
Tyler's a cutie.
All right.
My wife loves Tyler.
He doesn't own
It's
one
getting
button.
weirder.
Yeah.
It's still early.
All
All
t-shirts.
right, tonight's topic. Miguel,
Yes, sir.
we were talking yesterday evening at the event, and you said you learned something one time
Yeah.
at the Tinder Box at Easton.
We were having a conversation, you and I,
Yes.
and you were knee deep in a bowl of probably chicken Chipotle bowl.
Yeah.
And you were eating, and I remember we're all smoking, and you were kind of having your lunch. And I remember your head popped up, and you said to me, if they ever want to,
I don't think it was unsolicited
it
advice.
was
I think,
totally
no, I think
totally
you were
unsolicited.
like, oh, I can't believe you're eating Chipotle healthy. I like to eat it this way.
No, it was totally. I remember.
Okay.
I'll never forget it. Like yesterday. And you said, "Hey, if they ever offered to double wrap your burrito because they messed up or stuff's coming out, don't let them do it to you, because I've checked, and a tortilla is like 500 extra calories.
It's
so
300 to 400.
300 to 400 calories, and it's just you're eating it, but you don't realize how many calories you're putting down. I remember that piece of advice, and then you went like right back down, kept shoveling the food in.
Yeah.
And you were like a cellmate. You had like your food like this. You were like shoveling.
You
on
were
the-
getting
yeah.
close. You're breathing on me.
Yeah. And
So it's
and
prior
what
to
I-
COVID.
And what I thought was that's kind of a
Yes.
metaphor in life, right? When people mess up, they'll try to put a Band-Aid over it instead of addressing the problem.
Interesting.
And sometimes you got to, and we were saying, not to get too too deep, but
Get deep, man.
yeah, but
Get in
sometimes you got to eat that burrito. It's messy, stuff's falling out, but you got to eat it.
Well, on the other side of it, they offer. You know why they do that?
No.
Why do they rewrap it? Hey, do you care if I rewrap this?
Because
It's easier.
They messed up.
Well, they messed up one.
Well, and
Like,
it looks better.
yeah, and they did it right in front of you because they'd wrap it up in foil and you'd be eating. You're like, what the fuck's this?
Yeah.
It's falling all over the place.
It does fix the problem initially.
Right. They messed up. It's easier to do that, but it's not really. Because have you ever asked them to rewrap it? Is my question.
No, but
Do you know what the process is? I mean, it's not like they have to like unbolt something here.
No,
It's
but
like
I've
literally
seen them. I actually saw them. I was in line once, and I did see them say to someone, "Hey, I'll put a second tortilla." And the lady said, "No, just scrape it into a new tortilla."
Yeah.
I'd never seen that before. But again, it's they messed up. They messed up in front of you, and they're trying to fix the problem.
But it's easier just to rewrap
It
that problem.
exactly. Than to do
Cover
right
it up
the
with a
first time.
Band-Aid, right? I mean, if they had little pieces of tortilla that they could just like slap on there and patch the hole, they'd do that, but that's too difficult. it's not that much more difficult to still steam or heat the one tortilla, put it down. Instead of wrapping it, you literally just unwrap and dump the shit in the new tortilla.
Yep.
And do that.
Yep.
I think the real reason is because they are afraid they're going to wreck it again.
Yep.
And this is a never-ending
Or
process.
they're lazy and just rewrapping. It's a lot easier and quicker than scraping it off.
Barber pole. Just
I think after today's show, you guys may have to count out Chipotle ever advertising on this show.
Yeah, it's not going
I've
to
never
happen.
eaten there in my life.
Really?
Never set
Never.
foot in a Chipotle.
Why is that?
It looks gross to me.
Okay. The store or the food? Or the
all
people?
Of the above. All of the above.
Okay.
The people look fine.
Okay. That's a good answer.
Yeah, the people look fine. The food looks
Non-appetizing to you.
correct.
Mickey Mouse.
Just make sure you get into that mic jack. So that way our listeners can hear you.
Their food sucks.
There it is.
They heard you loud and clear.
No sponsorship whatsoever.
So when we were talking about this, Jake took the other aspect of this, and we're getting somewhere with this, in my opinion. But Jake, you said you want it double wrapped.
Well, but okay. So it's hard with. I mean, are you thinking about a metaphor? Or are you legitimately thinking about it?
Because when I told this to Miguel, I said, "All right, it doesn't change the flavor at all. It basically adds 400 calories to what you're already eating, probably 1,200.
Right.
So now you're at 1,600.
Yeah, but
So
see,
it had
like,
the same flavor.
I used to order my burritos double wrap because it was double meat, guac, sour cream, everything. So there was no way to not double wrap it. It had to be.
I literally have seen people go to Chipotle and they were ordering so much shit on their burrito that they knew ahead of time, yeah, you're gonna have to double wrap this. Go ahead and put 2 on there because they get double rice, double chicken.
I would order it that way.
Why? What?
But I
what's the
also
goal
wanted
here?
I also wanted the extra calories. So like in high school, in football season, I would drop 15 pounds in a football season. So
Right.
I wanted the extra calories.
What about now?
But as no, I don't want it. Thank you very much, Steve. I really
everyone's laughing.
thank you for addressing that.
Do you still get it double wrapped?
No, obviously not.
Well, obviously.
Okay, so
Oh,
Obviously not. Okay.
obviously not.
We're listening.
Oh my gosh. So I don't know what else do you want me to say about that. Rob had to walk out.
So the whole point of this is that, like, Miguel, what was the kind of metaphor or the lesson there?
for me,
it might be a stretch. It is a stretch for a lot of people.
well, something I've always appreciated about you, Steve, is you're always about focus. You're always very positive on Facebook and social media and telling people to really focus. And I've struggled with losing weight, and sometimes in my health. And I've always looked at you, and you're always giving these very positive things. And I remember you telling me that. And there have been several times I've been to a Chipotle where they'll just put a second tortilla on, and I love tortillas, so I'm like, yay, extra tortilla. But at the end of the day, that's an extra 300-400 calories that you don't need. And I remember
do anything for you unless you're bulking.
Unless you're
in all
bulking
honesty,
up.
you're
Yeah.
bulking for
Yeah.
whatever
Right.
reason. Just
Right.
like I need 300 to 400 calories of carbs.
Yeah.
And when you told me that, I thought about that. And so I've been to Chipotle several times, obviously, since then. And sometimes they'll, I need to double wrap this, whatever. And I'll say, please don't. You know what I mean? I don't, just because of
Like
those
I changed
extra
the life
calories.
there.
Yeah, I'm trying to be a little smarter, right? So it's little decisions a day can lead to great successes, right? So, hey, instead of ordering the bigger bowl at Piata, I get the smaller bowl. Instead of doing double wrap, just one. These little things can add up. And if you're working on your weight and you're working on just a healthier lifestyle, these little things can add up. And that's something that when you told me that's something that stuck to me. But if you look at it a little bit more deeper in life too, is like sometimes it's easier to try to cover up your mistakes. Sometimes it's easier just to grab another tortilla to fix your mistake instead of facing the issue is, hey, you just got to be better at what you do. You got to take maybe a different strategy. You have to, and it seems maybe, we're taking this subject very deep, but you can, and this is something I love about Beyond the BS, is that sometimes you can take these little life lessons, which you were saying, hey, Miguel, save the extra 300 or 400 calories, can kind of look at that in life and say, there's probably a better way of facing a problem and not taking the easy way out, facing it head on and really figure out what that problem is and making it a better situation. And so and that's what I love about that topic. And we joke about we're having fun on the show, but those little lessons, something you were just giving me a piece of advice on saving some calories, I kind of look at sometimes and I say, hey, you can kind of apply that to anything in life, right? And as a salesman, maybe you schedule an appointment and you miss the appointment, or maybe you put in an order in wrong for a store. Instead of making an excuse, you fall on the sword. You take the beating and you take it and you move on. And I think it's easier sometimes. Not easier, but it's more responsible. It's a better way to head the problem. Take the problem head on instead of taking the easy way out.
Yep. Sean Anderson just says, I don't know. I think you guys, I think for this topic, you all are stretching the tortilla way too thin to hold all the BS in there.
That's
good.
Yeah, that's why I double wrap my burrito.
That's good. That is a big part of it, right? So just looking at this, there's different sides of it, right? You're making those small decisions. So yes, in that moment, double wrap it, not a big deal. You do that all the time, not necessarily Jake's, high school and college.
I took it in a literal sense.
Well, no, I'm just saying, like when they bust the burrito, they just wrap it back up and hopefully the other one doesn't bust, right? I mean, that's the big thing. I think this is a Band-Aid fix type of a scenario. I look at the industry that all 5 of us are on and other people in the garage. It's, would you ever, so you have a roller rolling a cigar. The wrapper cracks. You just say, oh, on that one, just go ahead and just put another wrapper there. Why?
Do that. Well, first of all, if you have a double wrapper,
adds calories.
I knew we had you on here for a reason, Jack.
Well, that's not tradition, right? The tradition is if your binder is really what's holding all the filler together. So binder would probably be better than actual tortilla, because the binder is what holds the filler leaves together. You need strength, you need elasticity, you need to be able to hold everything together. And when you put the wrapper on, there are times when it does rip. And I will tell you, I've had people say, you know what, I bought this cigar, it's $20, and I saw a patch. So there's a little rip in the wrapper, and they cut a little piece out, and they glue it on, and you go, this is a $20, $25 cigar. Why would they do that? Another no-no. So what you do is you take the wrapper off, you literally discard the wrapper, and then you would use a new wrapper. And you would never allow that to happen, because you want the outside of the cigar to be absolutely perfect. The way we treat wrapper tobacco opposed to what's being grown for filler and binder is completely different. A lot more work, a lot more care goes into it.
It's more expensive, right?
More expensive.
Yeah.
Which, again, a lot of times workers, whether it be Chipotle or in a factory, they don't care.
They don't care.
They don't care about expenses.
They don't care, right.
More stuff goes into it. They don't care. Yeah.
And I think that, you would never put the 2 wrappers on because one ripped and one teared. Actually, you would probably have a funky burning cigar. You can do double binder, but you can't do a double wrapper. It's not done traditionally, but
it's not going to be the same as the point.
It's not
right?
going to be the
it's
same.
It's not the.
I bet it has been done.
Yeah.
I'm sure it's been done.
And actually, Jack, you could probably talk on this. We were talking about like patching. We've seen that by some factories, and that's a no-no.
We had a batch of the BS on a previous manufacturer.
The gold or the silver?
We had a batch of the gold. Oh, shit. You got me. A previous manufacturer. It wasn't the silver. And they sent it, and it was like a partial order. It wasn't what we ordered. And all of a sudden, they started cracking, popping, all this stuff. They said, send them back to us. We'll rewrap them. I'm like, no. Yeah. I'm not going to do that.
Yeah.
It's at that point the mistake's been made. You know what I mean? It's gone too far in my opinion. Going back to the Chipotle thing, and I'm going to take this somewhere here, but I don't know how you can eat a double wrap burrito, because like when I eat a burrito from there, like it kind of like the tortilla gets in your teeth. You know what I mean?
They use a very thick tortilla.
But then if you do 2 of them, like were you digging tortilla out of your teeth the entire meal?
No, there was one time after
he doesn't chew it.
Well, yeah, I inhale.
Literally just stuffs the whole burrito in his mouth and down the hatch.
I mean, off topic, just real quickly. So one time I had 3 double wrap burritos in one sitting after a football game.
Did you lose a bet?
No, I just wanted. Yep.
We're talking what, 3,000 to 4,000 calories at one meal.
Try 9.
9,000 calories.
Yeah,
Just out of
I added it up.
curiosity, were you home shortly thereafter?
Yeah.
Good. You always like a good home court to take care of the.
Honestly, it was fine. Honestly, I was fine. But
okay, that toilet wasn't. I guess my big thing is that it's the same thing like when you do a project, right? This is the whole thing. When you're doing something, you want to do it right.
Yep.
You want to make sure that it comes out right. When you're doing drywall, and you accidentally like hit something, or you make a mistake doing any project.
You put a hole in the drywall.
Yeah, you put a hole in it.
We're talking about not masking something that we have a real issue to, right?
Okay, go ahead. Continue.
That's what you're saying, though, right? I mean, that's the metaphor,
It's not going to go. The metaphor is basically the problem's not gone away.
right?
Yeah.
You know it's there.
Face the
It's
problem,
gonna come
fix
back.
it right, and so you don't have to do it a second time.
All right. Thanks for tuning in to part 2, everyone.
You're welcome.
And that's a wrap.
Literally, good pun. It was a wrap.
Hey, Jack, thanks for coming on tonight.
Thank you.
Yeah, that's really
Thank you
nice.
for having us. It was worth the drive.
All right, Jake,
Yes, sir.
you ever made a mistake in your career?
A lot.
Just
Okay.
made one 2 weeks ago.
Oh my
Pass the
God.
bottle. Jake, before you respond, can I get that bottle?
Yeah.
Before he hits
Can
you
I
with
get
it.
that one after, please? Can I get it after?
Sure, buddy.
Ask him again in 3 months.
All right, Jake. No, I'm going after Jake here a little bit. Just
Yeah,
because
that's
you-
fine.
We all are.
Yeah.
I'm an open book. I'm an open
No, I know.
book.
Yeah, you are. And this is, like when you were the co-host of the
Yep.
podcast, it was much the same. You are an open book.
Yeah.
Whiskey helps. Open that wide open.
Yeah, I've
But-
tried to be smarter of what I say now.
What do you really think about ground heads?
That's not, no. Honestly,
big-
I'm blessed.
Yeah.
I'm so like so. So as far as to answer your question, as far as what my mistakes have been, like
Not what they've been. I'm just saying, have you made a mistake? I'm
yeah,
not-
yeah. The answer is
Detail them, will
yes.
you, please?
You can lay them all
The
out. if
answer
you
is
want.
yes.
Can I get that whiteboard over here?
Yeah, get 2 boards for Tyler.
Oh, now you're damn. Little projection there.
Innocently sitting out there, dude.
He's not innocent. He's never innocent. No, yes, I've made a mistake in this industry, and I think I've made a mistake. Like we've all made mistakes.
Not
So
necessarily in this industry, but I'm just saying, like, guys, let's talk a little bit. That's the whole point of this part too. I know I joked that you kind of very definitively said what you were saying about the topic. Yes, it is, but it's something that I think a lot of us have learned, still are learning. There are times that you do something and you try to put a Band-Aid on it.
It could be a
Like,
relationship. It could be anything.
It
Yeah.
could be a relationship or
I-
something. You do something you know is wrong, or you realize is wrong, or you get called out,
yeah,
and you sometimes can either try to cover up the problem, cover up the mistake. No, I didn't do that. You lie about it. You do all this stuff.
Right.
No. That's kind of where I'm getting with this, is that you try to basically dance around instead of own up to it.
right.
Like if you weren't in front of that Chipotle worker and they busted the tortilla, all they would do is double wrap it.
All right.
Because you didn't see it happen. You don't know. You're going to eat it. You might think, same thing like a cigar that's double wrapped. Like, this is different. Like, man, this is really chewy. Like, this is not what I'm expecting.
I think for me personally, I think I've honored, and I honor the fact for myself that I always own up to my shit. I own up when I make a mistake, and I know that I will not make up for it, but I will work twice as hard to make sure that doesn't happen again.
It's good.
It's always the thing where you make a mistake and you make sure that you tell your boss or your superior or whoever you made the mistake to that, significant other, that, okay, I did this. I'm not going to do it again. I've learned from my mistake, and I'm going to make sure that I don't do it again. I mean, Alicia, my fiance, literally has a tattoo on her side of her hip that says never a failure, always a lesson. And
that.
she's lived by that
Good.
her whole life, and it really instilled a lot in me. I mean, I've told my story on the podcast a lot of times, but it's one of the things that's been instilled with me as far as, if you make a mistake, own up to it, learn from it, and don't do it again. And then, it's I don't know what else to say about it as far as that
What's
goes.
interesting about that is your nickname from your fiance is Lesson. Your nickname is Lesson. I think now it's all making
That makes
sense now. I love it.
Tattoo
we
came
love
later.
It. I will tell you that I think it's we've had some great conversations on the second half of these shows, and I do think that part of it is trying to make yourself a better person, a better man, a better woman, whatever it may be. And you know, I remember my first house, we retiled the bathroom, and I'd never retiled anything before. And I remember all the mistakes I made were covered up by the tile. But every time I went in that bathroom, I could see through that tile.
You knew what they were.
And I was like, I knew it was there. And sometimes in life it could be that way too. You go, man, what the hell was I thinking, or what decision? And Jack and I are national sales managers. He's a national sales manager for Espinosa. I'm the national sales manager for Crown Heads. And there's a lot of responsibility on our shoulders. And there are definitely times where both of us, you learn throughout this job, you learn throughout the lesson. You learn, you throw that guy out of there.
Rob just like chuckled when you did. There's a lot of responsibility on our shoulders. Sure.
He's leaving half an hour. Listen, I've never met anybody that doesn't make mistakes. Everybody makes mistakes.
Yeah.
Like Jake says, own up to it, resolve the problem. Depending on how big the mistake is, be careful who you tell. It's great to own up to your mistakes, but
I love the Coca-Cola story about, hey, bring me a Coke. That's a great story.
I think one of the big differences though between like when you make a mistake in a relationship versus the Chipotle worker that blows out the side of the tortilla. When you blow out the side of a tortilla, like that's obvious it's a mistake. I think when it comes to like a relationship or in your professional life, you may do something that someone else considers a mistake. You may not consider it a mistake.
Right.
And that's the hard part. Is
that's the rough. That's tough.
If your significant other considers it a mistake, it was a mistake.
Yeah.
It was
in their eyes. In their eyes, they consider it a mistake. You may not.
Initially,
they may.
But you will.
It depends on which part of the relationship.
A Cuban woman. And Miguel's married to a Puerto Rican woman. Yes. Yeah. You made a mistake, buddy.
Can we I sent Jess a link here tonight. Jess.
No, Miguel.
But see, like Alicia and I have talked about that same aspect and how, the problem arises in the person that views it as a problem.
Yeah.
And if you love that person, you have to respect the fact that they see it as a problem.
Absolutely.
And take your pride out of that situation. And whether you believe that it is wrong or not, if you love them, then it is a problem, and you have to fix it.
All right, on the other side of that, let's talk about like Miguel's bathroom there. Listen, if the other person doesn't catch it, they don't know, but you know.
Yeah, and
so I mean, let's talk about a little bit like the guilt side of it is kind of the point, is that
that's
you walk in there, right? So it's like someone walks into that bathroom that you did, man, it's such a great job. Are you the type of person that you just like, yeah, I fucking nailed it? Or are you the type of person, this is Miguel and everyone else, or are you going to be that person? What happens? You're like, oh, well, yeah, it is. But it's like, see right there.
Yeah. So I had.
See right there. Like,
it's not, into the wall.
Yeah.
So
the dog?
Same
Where's
mentality.
the dog?
I feel like it's the same mentality as someone's like, I really like your shirt. I got it on sale. Like, I don't fucking care. I like your shirt. You know what I mean? Like, I'm just.
Well, here's the funny part of that story. This is the end of that story. Was we sold our house to somebody. He had it for maybe 8 months, and then he sold it to another person. That person became friends with our old neighbor. And my old neighbor, I'm having a cigar with my old neighbor, and he's telling me, he goes, oh, that lady that bought your house, she completely gutted it and is redoing the floors and the walls and the bathroom. It's going to be her last home or whatever.
But not the bathroom.
No. He said, last time I was over there, she was telling me how bad a job the bathroom tiling was.
You finally could sleep at night.
And it was one of those. Yeah, I was like, probably about time someone figured it out. But it did. It came back to me.
Years.
And I remember telling my wife, I said, you won't believe this. I said, remember when I did the tiling in the bathroom? I told you how horrible it was and how it looked nice from the outside, but behind the walls, it looked horrible. I said, well, it finally came to light. And it's one of those life lessons you learn. You go, you can hide your shit for a long time. Eventually, it's going to come out.
Now, did you say you did it, or did you say I fired the guy that did it?
No, my neighbor said, oh, you should have seen the guy that lived there. I'm still friends with him. He did a horrible job. I know he did a horrible job. But I do think that sometimes you got to own up to those mistakes. You should always own up to those mistakes. And like what you were saying, Nate, is that, look, sometimes you may not view it as a mistake. Maybe they view it as a mistake. And sometimes you just gotta take it on the chin and walk away like a champ. You know what I mean? It's like a boxer. To be a boxer, you have to have a lot of pride. You have to be a very assured individual to be a boxer. And when you see a really good boxer lose, and after the fight, they interview him and he's making every excuse in the world, opposed to a boxer who goes, man, he was a better man tonight. He did a better job.
Yeah.
All of a sudden, as a fan,
It's his
you
character.
respect that a little bit. And you go, man, that guy was better tonight. He hit me with some clean punches. I just couldn't handle it. Hopefully I can come back for a rematch. That boxer you view a little bit different than the guy who goes, oh, I wasn't in the right state of mind, or that was a cheap shot, or I just wasn't mentally there tonight.
Or he had the one last year where the guy blamed his loss on the outfit he was wearing walking out to
yes, it was a couple years ago.
My outfit was too heavy. My legs got tired.
My outfit
that,
was too heavy.
Wow.
You get tired walking out there.
Yeah, that was the Bronze Bomber. I forget his actual name. Deontay
It was
Wilder.
the Wilder Fury. I think it was the second fight.
And Wilder came in and blamed the outfit he was wearing and
Which weighed 60 pounds.
What you got to look at that and you go, people lost respect for him after that fight. He had to come back and prove that he was those excuses were silly, and he wound up coming back fighting again and losing. But you respect the guy when he takes it on the chin and says, my bad, I'm going to be better.
Yep.
And that, to me, is what the lessons you can learn, I think, in life. And if you're a fan of sports or whatever it may be, you can learn a lot by that.
Absolutely. And you guys, we talked a bit about relationships, like you were talking about, Miguel. But with Jack being on, Miguel being on, you guys have crossed paths in the career, in the cigar.
Twice.
Yeah. I think this
One
is
was a mistake.
I know which one that was.
One was a mistake.
But
The other was beyond our control.
fair.
So people know out there that Jack and I, besides working for two separate companies, we've worked together twice in two past companies. But it's been such a pleasure to know Jack, get to know Jack over my cigar career. And Jack's family has over 100 years of tobacco growing, cigar producing, back roots in Cuba. I got to work for his family and represent Tarana for many years, which, few and fewer companies that are family owned anymore. And that was an honor for me to be a part of that. And Jack has a long history in this business and left for a while and came back. So besides us working for separate companies, some of your viewers may not know, but Jack and I are real friends.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? And
well, you were the one that actually reached out before, Tyler or Jack, that they were going to be in town for Espinosa. They had an event tonight. And they're, obviously just, traveling together in the area. But Miguel was the one that actually reached out and was like, hey, Jack's going to be in town. Can we get him on the podcast? And so we tried to figure that out. And
Jack's actually.
I didn't know we had an event that night.
Well, Jack's secretary actually reached out to me and said, Jack would like to be on the show you're on.
That
Can
makes
he
sense.
please get on? And so your secretary, who handles all your business, I told her, and eventually got back.
Is that Tyler?
Yeah. Her name was Tyler.
No, I think with this topic, right? Like, let's get away from the whole like double wrap thing. But it is the mistakes, you know what I mean? And I think this is something that I looked at this, you guys, obviously Nate's on all the time every week, and Jake has been on all the time before he left to go to Indy. He's been on several times. Miguel's been on several times. Jack, you've been on before. This whole topic, it's tough. 229 episodes in. What do you do for a life topic? Conversation spurs it. Now all of a sudden the wheels start turning.
Can I tell a story to kind of throw a monkey wrench into it, just to see like what your interpretation of it would be?
Yeah, I was making a point, but yeah, go ahead.
Go ahead. I'm sorry.
No, now you threw me off. Go ahead. Let's see the monkey
I'm
wrench.
sorry.
That
I
was
always
the
do
monkey
it.
wrench, actually. You literally threw a stick in my spokes. Go ahead. I just fell off the bike.
All right. I'm sorry.
Blame it on Russia.
Go ahead, Jake.
No, did you
No,
really
seriously,
lose
go
it?
ahead. Go ahead.
All right.
Go ahead.
All right.
I don't care.
So
I live here. I got to be here. I don't know. You guys have somewhere
all
to
right.
go.
So the story, so my dad, when we're a big boating family, we love to be on lakes, blah blah blah.
Okay.
So when they bought their new boat in 2003, like the acronym for boats is like it's like break out another 1,000. Like boats are a money pit.
Yeah.
You know what I
best
mean?
days I own a boat when I bought it and I
Sold it. Yeah, exactly. Yeah,
Absolutely.
yes, exactly. So so my dad, when we bought that boat, we drove it 11 hours. We drove from Columbus, Ohio to Dubuque, Iowa to pick this boat up with a 99 Tahoe. And we drove it all the way back 11 hours in the rain. And so we get home and everything. The boat's beautiful. Obviously it's immaculate. And, but obviously you can't keep things nice forever.
Yeah.
right? So my dad, what he does, we grew up in a family where, and Miguel's noticed this with my vehicle, like you keep things nice so you have them for a long time, right? So you keep things nice for a long time, right? To have them for a long time.
Take care of things.
Yeah, you take care of things because it's a lot of money. You know, you don't know when you can't buy something else if it gets ruined. You know what I mean? So, so what he does, we get it home and and I've never seen my dad do this, but he takes a knife and he goes up under the swim platform and you can't really see it, but just to get it out of the way, he just takes a knife and scrapes the bottom of the paint just to get it out of the way.
Oh, wow.
Because it was going to happen.
Yeah.
That way it's off his shoulders and it's over
That's
with.
kind of neat, actually.
It's over with.
Yeah.
So it's not that the boat's ruined and he knows that mistake is there.
Yeah.
But he did it and it was his choice to do it.
It's like making fun of yourself before someone else does.
Yeah. Same. Yeah.
Yeah.
Now,
So
You get a new phone, more accurate to everyone else. Like that first phone drop, you're like,
yes.
no, listen.
yeah, this pristine like $1,100 thing in your hand.
This is great. This is great because I remember the first time I bought my wife a brand new car. It was an SUV, brand new off the lot.
Good on you, man.
Had never had it. We always bought used.
No one
cars.
likes a bragger, but go ahead.
No.
But I
Bought a
bought her
new-
like 6 cents.
Yeah, the first time, not the.
It was it was discounted.
we do that every couple of years now. But no,
Oh,
no.
feel like
Listen,
we're going in different directions.
Yeah.
On like,
round heads.
yeah. You can always buy another one.
yeah. Well, I remember I was living in Cincinnati, and we drove it, and we went and had dinner at Newport on the Levee, and we parked it in the parking garage. The first day we
Dang.
come out, someone had backed into, hit the back of the
Tailgate?
the tailgate, and it dented it in. Look, you couldn't. It wasn't huge.
So he traded it in for a Maserati.
I was never convicted of murder, is what I want to say next.
But what it was, I remember being so angry on the drive home.
Yeah.
And my wife was telling me, like, it was going to happen sooner or later.
Ugh.
It just got done earlier. And it reminded me just now of that story you told.
Yeah.
And I remember probably about a month later, I scraped the side of the car on accident, bringing groceries in. And I remember thinking to myself, I already got a dent in the back. You know what I mean? Did not fix it.
You didn't double wrap that burrito, did you?
This is the opposite.
You had chicken and
Yes.
sour cream all over
all
your
over
fucking
the
hands.
place.
Yeah.
All over. Coincidentally, Jake's dad was in that garage.
Did you see a boat?
He was helping you. He was helping you, saving you the
It's like
despair.
a fist size, like just like boom.
Ugh.
Fuck this new Jeep.
Fisted my Jeep.
Whoa.
So
Wow.
So here's the
I'll make
thing,
sure to
though.
put it
How do you-
explicit.
But how do you
Or
interpret
outside
that
of
as
it.
far as like a metaphor?
So
Like it's
for-
interesting.
It was interesting to me because I'm a watch guy. I love watches, and if you wear a nice watch, I don't care if it is a $28,000 Rolex Daytona, if it's a $200 roll or a Seiko 5, or if it's a $135 AP. It doesn't matter.
Sure.
Sooner or later,
Nate, did you get all that?
Still more expensive than any of the watches I own.
sooner or later, you're gonna scratch it.
hate
There's
it.
nothing
How
you
binary.
can
Hate
do
it.
about it. You're gonna scratch it, and it's gonna happen. And sometimes it's better to get it out the way because
No,
it happens. To
Turn that
me,
to Jack real quick.
Yeah.
Not a chance. I would take
No,
a $28,000 Rolex and scratching it because
No.
eventually it's going to happen.
it's
Yeah.
but
Same thing with Jake's dad. I appreciate the thought process. I think it's a little
It's a bold move, Kyle.
it's a bold move. It's self-deprecating.
I'm just saying it
it's
adds
like-
to the conversation. It builds.
No, I agree with what you're saying. I think that's a mentality thing.
Well,
You-
let me finish my car story if I could.
Okay.
Sorry.
Turn the mic back, please.
Sorry.
Can I get a pour here?
So here's
Try to catch up
here's
from part one here.
so this car we
Yeah.
drove. Listen to this. We drove it for 180,000 miles
With a dent.
with a dent.
with two dents, a
Two
scrape
dents.
and a dent.
Wow.
Now listen to this. And this makes me very happy. We were moving to Florida 4 years ago,
Yeah.
and my wife and I decided we're not going to take this car. We bought it
Dented.
new, 180,000 miles.
Yeah.
Okay.
The Ohio River.
Listen to this.
With the guy that fucking backed up in it. Yes. Hey, he was in the freezer for 8 years.
And look,
Collected
and-
insurance on it.
I have a good friend of mine said, look, that thing's going to die any day now. No one's going to buy that off you. My good neighbor came to me and said, what are you going to do with it? You're going to take it to Florida? I said, well, no, we're going to buy some new cars when we get to Florida. You know what he said to me? He goes, I have a friend who owns a youth Christian camp where they bring inner city kids out to the country.
This guy big tickets
And-
all over the place.
No, listen, this is
Thank God they didn't.
Jack,
do
I
that,
asked you to turn the mic
I know,
to
how
you.
you follow
this
this
is a true story.
We'll figure it
This is a
out.
true story.
I
We
didn't think you were lying.
donated it. We donated it. We donated it to this program. We didn't take $1. We donated it. Okay.
It's good.
One hell of a tax write-off.
4 years later, it's still running.
Wow.
It's got 250,000 miles, and they keep it
Is this
on
like a
this
story about
property.
regret?
No, it's what it is that even though it was dented, even though it lost some value, and even though it had all these miles, and to me it was garbage, I just want to get rid of it. The truth is that it wound up meaning more to somebody else, and it didn't matter that it had dentists. It didn't matter that the color
fair.
was fading, that the cigar ashtray was all burnt up. It didn't matter. It
Now you're
lived
taking
on to
blame
help
for it a
other
little bit.
people. And I remember my wife and I, we'd never done anything like that before. We'd never donated anything like that before. And at the end of the day, I go, you know, it's a little bit like metaphor for life.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
Which part?
Can you expand on that, Jack?
Yeah, Jack, we're follow that up.
Oh my God. You are wonderful.
What you were tying that into life.
That sometimes
Jack, you want to take this one?
no, I and
No.
and I got to tell you, because we had never donated anything on
I
that
feel
level,
like a piece of
right?
shit right now.
Your other chair's still open.
Yeah, back over there.
Tyler, tag him in,
uh,
tag in.
What I
Shop Espinosa Cigars.
donate every day. It was one of those things where you realize that maybe it wasn't as pretty. Maybe it was dented. Maybe it to you it lost value, and you thought, "Who the hell wants this car?" It turned out that it had another life, and I think sometimes in life,
But that little
And-
one-legged orphan.
None of our
Jack Tarano.
none of our listeners heard that, but everyone in the garage did.
Little orphan Annie.
Yeah.
That was the nicest tree fort ever kid ever had.
He lived in that car. Had a house. It was wonderful.
God bless us, everyone.
Either the viewership's gonna go up or so last week, everyone. Nice knowing you.
This was a great run. This was a great run. You made it to.
We almost made it to 230. 229.
I
All
opened
right.
the door for an old lady the other day. Is that okay?
That was
with
nice.
you?
That's nice. You can't even do that anymore, though.
Do you know what I
She didn't
like
say thank you.
coming-
She didn't say-
coming back to like my own story and as far as the metaphor is
Yes.
like the way that I look
There's
at it is
too many. This
I
is
know.
too much.
too many stories.
No, it's great. Anyone
Back to
listening is
my
like,
boat
what the
story.
fuck?
No,
What was in that rum?
no,
Bring us back, Jake. Bring us back.
Yeah,
full circle, right?
Full
right.
circle.
Full circle. So
dig deep.
the way that I look at it is like from my latest experience, going from Burned by Rocky Patel
Yeah.
to going to a dream job of
Rob
mine
Wilson,
and
Rocky
going to
Patel, yeah.
wholesale with cigars and doing something that I've been actually working towards for 6 years.
Yeah.
And so it's peeling that Band-Aid off. And like, if you say like, well, the scratch is like to get it out of the way. Well, that was stupid. But for me, it's something to where when you realize where you're not where you're supposed to be in life, there's the metaphor, then you have to peel that Band-Aid off and become and get used to what reality is. And it's that you don't want to either be with this person or in a relationship, or you don't want to be in this part of the career and you want to move on to something else because you know that's what you want to do. It's about bettering yourself and understanding that you got to peel that Band-Aid off and go for what you want.
Yeah, I think, to build off of that, and anyone can chime in here too. We shut their mic off a while back. No one can hear anything they're saying. I think it is a big part about your mentality, Jake. And earlier on, I think it might have been a bit of a hindrance. And as you get further down in your career and life,
What do you mean as a
relationship-wise-
hindrance?
So I'll say this: if you're constantly, not you personally, I'm just saying it.
Sure.
Yeah, I am. Very sure.
Okay.
I think there's some parallels there, but I mean, it's like if you get interviewed for something, you just got interviewed for Crown Heads, right?
Yeah.
And I interviewed in my previous career, especially hundreds, maybe thousands of people, and you do those interview questions, and some of them are classic ones, but a big part of that is, like I had some. My favorite question was always, if the roles were reversed here and you were interviewing you, why would you not hire yourself?
It's a good question.
I was I was hiring, managers, salespeople. I was hiring frontliners in the moving and storage industry.
What did you say?
Well, no, I'm the interviewer.
Oh, I'm sorry.
So in my example, and to you guys out there, this is a big part of this: is that do you own up to it, or do you try to, metaphor-wise, sugarcoat it or rewrap the burrito so no one sees it that you messed up, or do you do? All right.
No,
thin out.
Or like
Steve,
every,
Steve,
every resume. I'm a people person.
I'm a resume. Yeah. So do you stand out? Do you show some humility, or do you try to dress it up, church it up? Right. So like, again,
You don't dress it up.
I'm not saying you do. I'm not. This is not just about
Rob
you.
does.
Oh.
When you interviewed people, something I hear more and more often is that people always ask you what your strong suit is, and then I see people today asking you, what do you think your weakness is? And I always think that's a great question during an interview.
What's a bad answer?
Yeah, it's how are you going to criticize yourself? You know
What's
I mean?
a bad answer though?
A bad answer. I've seen it. I've interviewed.
You've
so
interviewed
many
a lot of people.
Yeah, and
Jack, you've interviewed a lot of people.
I have no weaknesses.
No,
That's
yeah,
a bad
I have no
answer.
weaknesses,
That's a bad
or I'm too punctual. I'm too punctual, or I'm too good at this, or those kind of answers are not what you're looking for.
It's still a benefit.
You're looking for someone to say to yourself, hey, you know what, man? I've only had a few sales jobs, and sometimes, I get caught up, or it's hard for me to ask for the sale. I'm getting better at that, or whatever it may be.
Why'd you part ways with your last company?
Who did I work for last? Duran. Well, I really love.
I'm not interviewing. These are
yeah.
You guys can feel these.
Yeah.
All right.
No. Why did you leave your last company, or what do you think?
Do you
your
think
weakness
that's,
is?
But these are those things. This
I've-
is all part of it. I mean, this is
I've
something
been
like,
asked
this is
that recently.
relationship. I'm in a newer relationship.
these
Same
are
thing,
great
right? So
questions,
no, but
'cause-
it is. I mean,
Yeah.
this is that whole point where you realize, and I'm sorry to drive this home, but just for the principle of the topic of like, do you rewrap that burrito? It's the same thing. It's like when someone asks you, so why are you here?
Right.
In this interview.
Yep.
Why are you looking for a new job? If you look at the resume and you're still employed, that's a good thing. We all know that, right? Not good in relationships. Side note. If someone says, why are you dating? You're like, well, the current relationship's not working out. So we do a lot of parallels between relationships and careers. Not one of them. But it is something that it's
But I mean, isn't that a given? Isn't that the
what?
question you're asking? Why isn't that a given? If somebody's coming to you that is currently employed, they're currently not happy at that job.
Correct.
Right.
They want it's a given
Yeah.
What's a given?
that they're looking to move somewhere else.
But you have to
where they
dive-
may find happiness.
You got to
Now,
dive into
if
the
on
why.
that
You have to
resume
dive
for
into the
they
why,
have
though.
7 jobs in the last 2 years. This person's
You
searching
guys-
a little too much.
But you
guys
still
are-
want that answer, though, right? When you
Yeah.
ask that
You
as an
want the
employer.
answer, but I think as you get more experience in the sales side of it, especially, and I remember those salespeople that I used to interview, and you saw their resume, it's like they were here for 2 years, they're here for 2 years, they're here for 2 years,
Yeah.
and then you talk to them, and they just are brilliant at the interview, and you're like, no, thank you, because I'm the next 2 years on you.
Yeah.
I'm gonna do the training, I'm gonna do this, and you think you're better than whatever position you're in. Would you guys agree?
Agree 100%.
100%.
Well, it's like, I mean, I don't know if you remember this, Miguel, but 3 years ago at the Tinder Box, I asked Miguel if I could be a part of Crown Heads then. And do you remember what you said to me and when you looked at me in the Tinder Box?
I would imagine that maybe
Talking to the mic. Talking to the mic, Miguel.
Wait, turn that mic.
I
You guys are sharing
not
a
exactly 100%. Go ahead.
Still in a garage.
So Miguel looked at me dead in the eye and said, "What experience do you have?"
Yep.
And I guess I didn't really have an answer for it.
Mhm.
So I said, 3 years at retail at Tinder Box, but what does that mean to you as an employer?
Mhm.
Right. So then I still continued to work at Tinder Box, put my nose to the grindstone, and then, faithfully, Rob reached out to me and got a chance at Burn, and then that was the reason for my interview with you.
Yeah, and I have to say that I think especially in your situation where you could run an operation that large, that hectic as a cigar bar can be, and you're able to keep your hat on, you're able to really keep it together. I think that shows a level of maturity and a level of work ethic that is not everyone's not cut out for, right? And so I think we interviewed you 3 times.
Yep.
And the first interview, we said, man, this guy's really good. Maybe he just interviews really well. And then we did the second interview and we said, he hasn't messed up, man. This guy's a really good guy. And I remember I called you for a third interview and you were like, how many more of these do I got to go?
I was just being honest. I wasn't trying to be a dick.
It was very
That's
honest.
good though. That is a very good thing. That's
and literally it literally came down to going, he hasn't screwed up. And every interview we do, someone messes up eventually. I mean, that's normal. We said, man, this guy's actually pretty sharp. He's really, and he's gung-ho about it. And he's done a great job. And
The other 4 guys turned us down.
No.
Thank you.
Thank you.
And
Miguel's
after,
tired of coming to the Tinder Box.
and my,
Right.
and after my 11th choice said no, I said,
They kept asking me to come to the event. I'm like, I left Ohio.
no, but I think he showed great. And this is a real hats off to you, is that you're at Tinder Box and you wanted to expand your experience and you were willing to move to a different state, to a different city to get it. To me, that shows a willingness to go get it and make something happen. And at the end of the day, I think, Steve, you work in retail and you have many guys that have come through Tinder Box, part-time, full-time, whatever it may be.
Facts.
At the end of the day, you have to have guys by your side that are go-getters. I don't care if you're selling cigars, if you're selling groceries, if you're selling bourbon, or if whatever you're selling cars, but you appreciate a go-getter. And ultimately, that's what we need, Jack and I, as sales managers. We need people that can manage themselves, that can be confident in what they do, own up to their mistakes, and perform day in and day out. And when you find that person, in today's market, I'd say it's harder than ever before. It's impressive.
Yeah.
And you bring them on your team and you make them part of your team. We've been talking a lot about Jake, but Tyler from Espinosa's out there.
Bless you, brother.
Tyler was a guy who was in the military, knew he wanted to get into cigars, and he was getting out of the military. And I think he did everything that he could do to put himself in a position to be interviewed and got the right opportunity. And you appreciate that. And Jack and I are I'm 20 years in the business. Jack basically was born into the business, but you're looking for that next generation, right? We're looking for that next generation.
How much do you care about experience though?
Experience. I can always teach you.
What kind of experience?
I can teach
Cigar
you.
industry experience.
No,
Okay.
I can teach you.
You gotta
any level.
You gotta be
At any
specific.
level.
Retail,
Like,
wholesale.
That's a big
You really
thing.
care about
When
that.
you're hiring someone, when you're trying to expand that, do you have cigar experience? Do you have sales experience? Do you have people experience? There are so many facets to that.
People and
I'm talking
sales-
about cigar experience.
So for me, no.
No,
Right? I think
me
you and I have
neither.
talked about
Yeah,
this.
yeah.
You and I have talked about this, where I want you to have sales experience. I want you to have people skills. As far as cigars go, we're going to teach you cigars. We can teach you tobacco. And John and Jack and
I'd
I
rather teach you than have you come in with.
I know
preconceived,
everything. Yeah.
That's
And-
interesting.
Yeah.
And it's and the most important thing. Now we work for companies who
Would you hire someone? Sorry to interrupt, but would you hire someone that had never smoked a cigar?
Well, first I would say this. I'm going to address that right now. That's where I was
Nice.
going. Hold on.
Jack.
Let me answer this real quick.
Jack.
We work for boutique cigar brands. Most people that want to work for us are already cigar guys. If you're
That
working
wasn't the
for the
question.
big
It wasn't the
companies,
question.
That wasn't
if you
the
notice the people who get into business who've never smoked cigars or have very little
question. I'd be
experience,
hesitant.
they work for. I'd be very hesitant as well.
Yeah.
But I've never had anyone in my 20 years do an
He'd
interview.
have to hit every other box.
Yep.
And
No, I think if you see like a cigar company hiring it, I don't know if you guys do this, but I've seen them on there, especially with like Altadis in general, where you see them on like Indeed or you see them on like, Monster or whatever it is.
Yeah.
Like you see a cigar, like people breeze by that. If
Yeah.
they don't smoke tobacco, they don't want any part of it. On the flip side of that, we've had some interns in from like RJ Reynolds.
Yep.
For like even like the views and like the vapes. And like we've had them come in and I'm like, these 22-year-old women maybe smoked like Marlboros when they were in college, but like none of them were interested in any tobacco. That's a job for them.
Yeah.
And
Cigars tend not to be a job. Cigars tend to be a passion
Correct.
and a lifelong
Yeah.
passion that you're into. But again, I would stress that Jack and I work for companies. I would say I've never received anyone's ever come to Crown Head and said, I like to work for Crown Heads, but I don't smoke cigars. Now, some of the big companies, as you said, they'll advertise on some of these big sites or whatever. We don't run into that. And so I will be more than happy to teach you about cigars, but I need you to have people skill. I need you to have selling skill, because that you have to have a base for that for us to grow it, I think. And that's what
you have to smoke to understand what you're selling.
Yes.
I think you do. I really do. Yeah. I think
Cigars are
that's
one
the
of those
question
things you
there.
can't sell without passion behind it.
I agree.
It isn't.
Well, so people buy from people that they like.
Yeah, but even if
That's
you,
the basis.
it's a basis. But even if you
But
like,
they get to like that person by sitting and having a cigar.
Yes.
Yes, and I think
But
we're all on the same page on that.
Yeah, if a cigar rep comes to you and he can sell you a cigar, he doesn't have to smoke it. He can tell you all about the cigar, the pricing, the margin, what the cigar is about. The problem, if that person doesn't smoke, is when they do an event or when they interact with consumers. And that consumer is passionate about cigars, and they're being sold a cigar by a person who doesn't smoke, doesn't enjoy it, doesn't appreciate the culture, then they're lost. So they can sell to a retailer, but when it comes to interacting with consumers and you don't smoke, that is where the problem comes.
and it's a bad look for the brand if that does happen.
Well, so to that point, I remember in my previous experience when I was a cigar rep, I was doing an event, and there were 4 people at the time working at the shop during the event. One was smoking Marlboro Reds out of a cigar or out of a cigarette holder, like a 6-inch cigarette holder from the 1920s type thing. Another person was smoking a vape. Another person was smoking cigarettes. Only one person that was working at that retail store was actually smoking a cigar.
Yeah.
And I'm sitting there and I'm, the manager and assistant manager were the ones smoking cigarettes.
Yeah.
I'm like, how do you guys work in a cigar shop, run a cigar shop, put on events, convince people to spend their hard-earned money on cigars, and you guys don't even smoke them? To me, I mean, and like I said, that was probably the worst event I ever did.
There's
because
hundreds of shops that don't engage consumers.
Well, to build on that a little bit, like if I'm going to go
Some
buy,
consumers don't like this. Is not the topic, but some consumers don't want that.
Don't want that.
You guys have all been in the Tinder Box at Easton, and you cannot. It's not a walk-in. It's not anything. There are people like we've literally been told to our face, "Well, this is dumb. How can I see the cigars?" I'm like, with your eyes.
Yeah.
It's glass. I
I had that happen last weekend.
But as far as a salesman aspect, that's what's made people like me, Ryan.
I know.
I mean, that's what's made us better salesmen. You had to sell that product for someone to buy it.
So it's interesting that we talk about this stuff is that communication is so huge. Go ahead, Miguel.
If I'm buying a Cadillac from a salesman, I don't need that salesman to have
I feel
a
like
Cadillac.
they sell themselves, really.
Well,
That's what he's saying.
Yeah, well, I don't need that salesman to also drive a Cadillac. You know what I mean? He can drive a Kia and still sell that Cadillac. But I don't want to buy something handmade, a cigar from a person who doesn't appreciate the culture. It's different. I think it's different.
It's way different.
I mean, if I'm buying a car, I don't need that guy to say, hey, I own the same brand and I'm confident in the brand. It doesn't even cross my mind. But when I'm buying a cigar, look, I've been 20 years in this business, but before that, I'd like to know that the guy I'm buying a cigar from is passionate about the industry, loves the industry, maybe fights on behalf of the industry. That means a lot to me.
I've actually met people that worked retail in the cigar industry that did not smoke cigars.
Yeah.
And so a customer walked in and was asking for recommendations, and the person that was running the shop at that time, smokes a lot of cigars, knows actually a lot about cigars, recommended several cigars. However, to add a kink into it, the person recommending cigars was a woman.
Mm-hmm.
So that customer did not take their word with any weight to it.
Mm-hmm.
But then when they saw another person that worked there, they're like, hey, what would you recommend? And that person doesn't smoke at all.
Yeah.
And that, thankfully, that person had enough integrity to go, well, what did she recommend you? And like, well, she recommended these. And the guy working there goes, well, I'd listen to her because I don't smoke.
Yeah, absolutely.
But you're working in a cigar shop, you don't smoke. Like, how do you sell the product?
Well, ask somebody like Tyler or myself, where it's how many
Tyler's not even here.
how many times have we heard, well, I've been smoking cigars longer than you've been alive?
Well,
I mean,
you guys are young.
I mean, how many? I know, but that's the point, is the fact that we could have more. I mean, they don't know. It's the same example that Nate's
Absolutely.
giving.
No, I think it's absolutely valid.
And that was my concern, because I worked with General when Laurel came up, and that was my concern with Laurel. And I told
Laurel
her-
Tilley's been on the podcast.
Yeah, I told her. I said my concern is that this young girl's going to go into a cigar shop, and this young girl's going to go into a cigar shop and tell these old guys what to smoke and how to smoke and how to
managed the
cut.
shop.
And she killed it, but she had to earn her way through that, because I'm sure she had some bumps in the road. I mean, Laurel kicks ass at events.
Yeah, and she
Yeah, you
shared a
gotta
lot of
push
that.
through that bullshit.
You gotta
Just
push
earn
through
their
it.
trust.
You know, Mike.
Yeah,
Easy as that.
and what's funny about Laurel is that, maybe she may be doing an event in Connecticut or in Florida, but if you don't know Laurel, when she worked and ran a shop in Wisconsin, she ran a shop. She
Mhm.
was the
Shop.
buyer. She had
When
the
we
chops.
first had her on the podcast, she gave some great stories
Oh,
about
yeah.
this specific incident that happened frequently. And it was a bit about, like what Nate was saying, like that someone like would deter us to someone else. Like, do you smoke? Do you even smoke cigars? You're pretty face. You're just a girl that works at a cigar shop. I get why they hired you, but
Yeah.
it's not that. I want to talk to you guys about a different angle of the topic here. Is that if you were not Jake that's trying to bulk up for football or whatever, but we keep talking about in this topic about, if you make a mistake, do you cover it up? Do you come clean? Do you do that? How do you handle that? Like, and again, having Miguel and Jack on this, you guys are 20, 30 years into any industry, right? The cigars or otherwise, any industry. It's always funny because I feel like a lot of people that are in business, they own their own business, they manage people, is like, my job would be a lot easier if I didn't have to deal with customers or employees. It would be so much easier if I could fucking just go to work and not have to deal with problems with employees or customers. But on the other side of that, with that burrito thing, if you are that customer, if you're that customer, what's the responsibility? What's the thought process? Can I double wrap this? I made a mistake. I did something. What's the expectation? What goes through your guys' mind when, like, a salesperson says, I messed up?
Let's fix it.
Or they don't say they messed up and they try to cover it up and fix it without you knowing that. I think this is,
Then they've
again,
messed up twice.
Yes.
Then they've messed up
say
twice.
that again.
They've messed
Jack.
up twice
How?
because they've tried to cover up their initial mess up, and that never works out. I mean, listen, Tyler, Tony, I got 3 in-house guys, 9 brokers I deal with. If you make a mistake, whether it's on ordering, let me know about it and let's fix it. Let's fix it. If you try to cover up, 90% of the time it becomes a bigger problem.
So that's kind of like the whole point of this, is that you can either do the quick fix.
As quick as possible.
Well, you see that this is the mentality side of it. You see this as your side of a quick fix versus the person that is trying to do their own quick fix isn't always the same thing.
Not always.
No.
They're trying to cover it up. They're trying to, like, I'll take care of it so you don't tell my boss. I don't want to get in trouble. Where then you have the employee that's like, I didn't You guys all use iPads. Y'all, I clicked the wrong button. That's it.
Listen,
Or worst case scenario in your guys' industry, I forgot to hit send.
Yeah.
I forgot to place the order.
all that's happened.
I know it
that's
does.
happened.
That's the conversation here. Is like, what
But
do
I
you do?
think-
Like, what is like the whole thing? Do you try to just make everything correct, or do you try to cover up the situation? And we're like, no, like I know my guy. He placed the order. Like
No.
you guys didn't. Go ahead.
No, listen. Everybody, like I said, there's nobody that doesn't make mistakes. People make mistakes out there. Let's fix the problem. I think Miguel and I have enough trust in the people that work for us and work for Eric and work for Uber and Condor and all these people that we're here to help. You don't need to cover anything up. Tyler doesn't need to cover anything up. If Tyler fucks up, he's got the confidence that he can come to me and together we're going to fix it. Listen, I help. It takes time to develop that trust with my reps, but the youngest one I have he's been a year with us. Tyler's been 2 years. Tony Gomez has been 3 years. These guys, maybe in the beginning they weren't 100% sure, but they've all made mistakes. Everybody makes mistakes.
But they don't want to mess up
Nobody wants to mess up
because they don't want to lose their job. They don't want to lose their livelihood. They don't want. They just don't want to have the ego.
The magnitude of the mistake to lose your
talking about
job
you, Tyler.
in
Well,
the cigar industry. I mean, really,
We all know you messed up, Tyler.
everybody. Listen, Tyler messes up less than anybody, but everybody messes up. I
That's
mess
the way
up,
my
and
human
when I
was.
mess up, I go to Eric and I said, "Listen, I messed this up. I've forgotten to put orders in. I forgot last week. Building up to the trade show, I get an order and I sat on it. Well, we had to when he called and said, "Hey, I need this product. When is it arriving?" Like a day after I got back from the trade show, I realized, holy shit, this came in the day before I was leaving. I forgot to turn it into Danielle, and we had the second day air it because he needed it by Saturday. We paid.
You lost a little bit.
We lost a little bit,
Yeah.
but Eric was like, just pay the money. Let's get
Get
it
it
over
out
to him.
there.
Let's get it to him.
Get done.
Let's resolve the issue.
We-
Now,
we-
if I'm
we-
making that mistake every week, then we have a different conversation.
Well, yeah. So that's a normal employment thing.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, short of
Same thing with relationships.
short of the fear of a person losing their job for making a mistake, why do some employees have that urge to cover up their mistake or not admit to a mistake? Like, why do they want to hide it instead of come out?
The fear is more than the humility.
Sometimes it
Fear
could
of
be,
what though?
Sometimes it could be the boss, right? Sometimes the boss in our position, when we're sitting at top and we have guys that are working for us, you can have a boss who puts the fear of God in you that if you mess up, it's over. And it's one of those things where I think if you're a real leader, hopefully your guys will feel comfortable to come to you and say, "Hey, listen, man, I double scheduled an event. I can't make them both. And I've got to cancel one, but I don't know who I'm going to upset." I've had that happen in the past.
You guys literally were at last night, the
Mhm.
event.
Yep.
The reason that you guys didn't know this, because I didn't,
Yeah.
buffer everything,
Mhm.
but the rep for the Whistler Irish whiskey,
Double booked, right?
he literally was on vacation. He thought it was next week. Like,
Oh,
so
And
like,
was that his boss that was there?
no,
that
it
was
it
one of the managers of Fido.
yeah. So the bar manager actually
Had to cover.
He covered
He
and
did a
he
good job.
did a good job. Yeah,
Yeah.
he did what he could, but that was the whole thing is that you look at that, and this is a great example for what you're saying, Miguel, is that I'm curious if Fido Irish Pub, Jamie, who is the AGM, does he say something? I think in this world today, a lot of the times it's so much easier to be like, I'll cover it. I got an event sold out, thanks to you guys and other people. Sold out. They already bought the whiskey. But I will say this is that this is the biggest thing of the fact that it's like when you cover it up, you don't own up to it. You don't dive down and you say, Hey, by the way, this really, even to the source, that rep, the Whistler Irish whiskey, you go to that person and say, you fucked me, man.
Yep.
I had
100%.
30 people out here.
Yep.
No one knows your product.
Yep.
I had people set up.
Yep.
You're supposed to sell this.
Mm-hmm.
And you say to me the day of, when you're following up, hey, like, we're ready to go. Oh, I thought it was next week.
That's an excuse.
If it never gets back to the powers that be,
Yep.
that
Now, if
person's
it gets
still
back
employed.
to the powers that be, and it is an ongoing problem with this guy.
It's a responsibility.
But if
You
this
lose
guy-
your brand.
Yeah.
But
Well,
that
and-
was my whole thing. It's like,
and
like we
Will
were saying.
Fido
That,
to another event with that rep?
No.
I mean, probably not because
well, I already know that they're just going to sell out what they have. They probably
But did anybody at that event know that happened?
no,
Doesn't matter.
because
no, Jamie
matter.
actually announced it.
He
He
did
actually
announce it.
he
He
did
did say it.
he told
yeah,
everybody, he's like,
so
hey, the rep
you
couldn't
saw
make it.
frustration,
Yeah.
but he said it in a positive way. Hey, rep's not going to be able to make it. All that stuff. He didn't come out and say rep's supposed to be here.
He double wrapped it.
Fuck that guy.
He's a douche.
He double wrapped it.
So
Which guy?
So the finish that, well, I had a rep who double booked an event. This is years and years ago. He said, dude, I don't know which store I'm going to tell. I got to pick one that I'm going to really disappoint. And I said, here's a better solution. That day I have nothing going on. I'm going to fly in and cover one of those events. So tell them that you double booked, that you made a mistake and you double booked. And I said, I'll go to either one. I say, you tell them, hey, I'm going to send our national sales manager in to do this event for you.
That's huge.
And we met and we made both accounts happy. And we fixed the problem and we addressed that and said, hey, listen, you need a little bit better. You know, this has never happened to you before. And all the years you've been doing this. You got to double check and make sure that this doesn't happen again. But we found a solution to where he thought he was going to have to disappoint one of his accounts. And as a sales manager, I said, no. You made a mistake. We're going to fix that mistake, but we're going to turn it into a positive in the sense that I'm going to show up to one of these events. And we did both events, knocked them out, and it was great. And I had a great relationship with that account because I showed up and did an event for them.
So is that you double wrapping or
No,
exposing?
because the person who made the mistake owned up to both
There it
stores
is.
and said, I double booked.
But I'm gonna make it
And
right.
I'm going to make it right. You're not going to have to cancel an event. And I think canceling one of the events or him not telling me or not showing up to one or telling the account, hey, I double booked. Don't tell my boss. I'll do the next
That's
week.
real nice
That's
there, Jack.
double wrapping. But when we said apologize, let them both know. And then you send me to whichever one you want me to. And we did it. We knocked it out. We fixed the problem. And it turned out to be great. But
Yeah.
it shows you that you don't have to double wrap the problem, that you can
Almost
find a
as good as
solution.
Orphan Park. That's a great
Almost.
story.
No,
So
the orphan thing was better.
I had
the
one
Jeep
where
thing was a better story.
I had
We all
I had
know
one
that.
where
It's-
when I was a
sorry,
rep,
trending. Sorry.
when I was a rep, I didn't cover, even though I lived in Columbus, I didn't cover Cincinnati.
Mhm.
And the rep that covered Cincinnati had booked an event and then left the company. And so I got a call to ask, whether or not I'd be able to, could I go down to Cincinnati, cover an event 2 days before Christmas? And I was like, yeah, just let me know what the details are. And they said, all right, the event's going to be from 5 to 9 o'clock. Cool. I show up at 4 o'clock and I see a sign on the door that the event's from 2 to 5.
Oh.
And so I walk in. Now, thankfully, this was a shop that before I was in the industry, I'd actually visited down in Cincinnati, and I knew the gentleman that owned the shop. And I showed up, and the guy goes, I didn't think anyone was coming to the event. And I'm like, I will literally show the email from my boss that says this is what I was told. Sorry this happened. I will throw you some cigars. If people want to buy cigars, I will take out of my own stock and I will add more cigars. Literally had a person that was asking questions about one of our cigars that shop didn't even carry. And I was like, listen, if they want to buy that box, if you want to order that box today for that customer, like I'll add in a couple extra cigars either for your humidor or for that customer. Like I was doing everything I could to try and keep that person happy.
Yeah.
Did they believe that you made it right?
Yes.
Okay.
By the time I left there,
because that's what matters.
Yes,
we're
by-
talking about the secondary party.
Yeah.
Because it doesn't matter if you think you made it right.
Credibility.
Yeah.
It matters if they thought you
Thankfully,
made it right.
I had a little bit of a relationship with that person to where I was able to explain what the issue was. And then also part of it was that entire event was one of the reasons why the company then allowed me to cover Cincinnati as part of my territory. So when I was at that event and our company fucked up, like I told them, I was like, look, because of this and because I live in Columbus, like this company's never had a rep for this territory in Columbus. That's why they initially gave it to someone else. Like, I'm going to start covering this territory. I'm going to be your rep. So from now on, like, you're going to have someone who's local, who already knows you,
And
who's going to be able to take care of that and make sure something like this doesn't happen again.
yeah, and if your event's at 2, you're going to be there at 1.
Exactly.
Yep.
It's real
smoking
nice.
that.
Should we talk about the cigar we're smoking? We were smoking early on. I think we've all on multiple cigars now, but
We don't talk about tobacco or whiskey on Beyond BS.
No,
No, go ahead.
the cigar that we're smoking is actually a special cigar. This is a cigar you cannot buy at retail. You cannot buy it online.
Sounds terrific.
Well, the way you get the cigar is by attending a Crown Heads event featuring Blood Medicine. It's a 4-pack event-only cigar, and I wanted to smoke it with you guys. And so the people around the country that tune in, if you get a chance to go to a Crown Heads event and they're featuring Blood Medicine, it's the only way you can get this cigar. My good friends at Espinosa have an event-only cigar as well, and it's
that?
kind of fun to do. And so we're smoking the Blood Medicine. It's a blend that we don't really talk about, the filler, the binder, the wrapper. It's just a great event-only cigar. We're all got a chance to smoke it tonight. It comes in a 4-pack. So if you're out there and you want to visit a Crown Heads event, ask if Blood Medicine is going to be there. They're available only on box purchases. You buy a box, you get a 4-pack of these Blood Medicine. It's something that we like to have fun in the industry.
Where's this coming out of?
This is coming out of Tobacco de Pichardo as well, out of Nicaragua.
Costa Rican.
No Costa Rican in it. Nicaraguan filler binder. I won't go any further than that. But it's a proprietary blend that we like to have fun with. But I think in the cigar industry, and my buddy Jack is on here. Jack, you have an event-only cigar as well, right?
Crema de laranja.
Crema de Laranja. Tell us about it.
Say it in English.
It's the laranja with a crema barber pole. Larange, like Eric says. Laranja. So yeah, we do the same thing. You know, we give you 5, but we do the same thing. But
Ours are a little more expensive.
Gotcha.
I love
How many
the
cigars
packaging
are
on
in
this.
your? That 4. Yeah.
Blood Medicine 4.
Price, though.
It's fantastic. I smoked it yesterday, and it's great. Listen, an event-only cigar, you
It's
want to give
fun.
them something that doesn't offend the guy that likes full-bodied, that doesn't, insult the guy that likes mild cigars. You try to come out with that medium body.
And it looks good. The barber pole and
yeah,
everything.
the crema de laranja
Yeah, it looks great.
has been a big hit for us. As
And
a
you're
matter
a
of
big
fact,
fan of the crema blend, which I love from Espinosa.
I smoke it all day long.
I'm with you. Jack and I are both big fans of Connecticut cigars, so
Casa Toraño.
Casa Toraño back in the day.
I remember that cigar.
We're gonna like slowly fade out to just that side of the podcast. We're gonna zoom in on these guys.
So can we circle back to Jake's dad's boat?
Oh, wow.
no, actually, yes, we can.
I'm curious what you say about it, though.
He actually
Jack.
punctured the
these are
boat
your-
when he
your-
hit it with a knife. And
Jack,
it sunk.
these are Jack's closing remarks. We're getting
Closing
to the point.
remarks.
Listen, thank you for letting me come on here. Are we ending this?
We can.
Yes.
I mean, you can stay
Yes,
after.
I would like to. Yeah.
You'd like to?
Yeah.
Okay. Listen,
Tony
thank
needs
you
to be
for
let
letting me
out.
interrupt this. I mean, Miguel is a dear friend. I love him. This an amazing family. We're going to a baseball game together in a couple of weeks
What's the baseball game?
Reds versus Marlins down in Miami.
down in Miami.
You a Miami fan?
No.
Yeah, no
Cubs.
one is.
Cubs.
Well, the cool thing about going to a
Wait,
Marlins
Cubs,
game
yeah.
is you get your whole section. You get a whole section. So
But you're a Cubs fan, yeah?
I'm a Cubs fan.
Nice.
Yeah.
That's why you like him so much.
No, he's a good guy, but yeah, for
Yeah.
sure.
Suffering Cubs
Did
fan.
you see
right
my
now.
Zippo?
Suffering Dolphin fan. I got
That's
that
it.
same Zippo.
Yeah.
Well, I got. Is
Mine's
that
got some wear
the
on it.
World Series one?
Yeah.
Yeah, I got that one.
2016.
Yeah, I got it in my.
Miguel says, "Oh, champions is wearing off." So is the trophy.
Yeah. But I love being on this show. I thought I was going to get to do reviews, but you know.
You had an event. You
Yes,
were
we don't.
booked.
No, but we don't. I thought segment 2 you do. Part 2 you talk about what we're drinking and what we're smoking.
Let's
and-
talk about it.
We can do a part.
You did try the rum. You did try the rum.
We can do a part 3
Yeah, I
with
did
an
try the
Espinosa.
rum. I did try the rum, and I did try the rum, and the Luciano the Dreamer was fantastic. The rum was not. The rum. I don't know. What did you call it?
Clement. It's a rum agricole.
Agricole. Yes, that was my first agricole.
Yeah, how'd it go?
It didn't go well.
What's interesting is what's interesting-
from him.
No, real quick. I'm going to add something into this. Is that Jack Tarano, obviously Cuban heritage. Cuba's
I'm
famous
used
for
to
not only
drinking
cigars
sweet
and
rum.
rum. Yeah.
Yeah, I'm used to drinking sweet rum, and somebody said that it tasted like Flor de Caña 12. Nothing. I think it was you. Nothing.
Just in like it didn't have that overly
And
sweetness.
I'll make up for it now.
Don't double wrap it.
I'm not. I'm just giving my honest goddamn opinion.
Jack, we'll have to have you on featured again.
Erotica.
with my new erotic novel that's
What's
coming
really
out.
good, no one knows this, and Espinosa Cigars, they're teamed up with Guy Fieri for the knuckle sandwich. What is no one knows is the fact that Jack is working on a erotica series.
Yes.
Is
Yes.
it
Romance
50
novel.
Shades of L'Orange?
Jake is on the cover of my romance.
there you go.
And if he's we had a photo shoot.
Good job. He works for Crowned Head.
Listen. People don't understand out there, but we had a photo shoot before this event. Jake didn't have time to change. If Jake stands up, you'll see what the cover of the romance novel will actually look like.
It looks a lot like Brokeback.
Jake and Tyler.
Oh.
I can't quit you.
I hope Mike didn't pick that up. Go ahead, Miguel. And I want to say real quick, what I love about this industry, and I'll say this. We are all, and this is personal, we are all in my garage on a cul-de-sac in Columbus, Ohio, and we have some heavy hitters of the industry. Not only, no, not you, Rob.
No.
and Rob.
Heavy hitters and Rob with 2 V's.
No, but it's really cool. That is a really a good example of the industry we're in and the community that we have. Is that you guys, Miguel and Jack, you've known each other for so many years.
Yeah.
When you guys were killing it in your different spots, together or separate, this is not about the podcast, but it's so cool that you guys came together again. And you guys listening out there, if you are listening, this is how simple it is that this is in Columbus, Ohio, which is not a cigar community, right? No one makes cigars here, but it is a very prominent cigar
100%.
community.
Yeah.
Like people smoke cigars. It's inbred, but everyone knows each other, and it's a lot of fun. It's
That
really
inbred.
cool.
I was waiting for you to say something.
It is inbred.
I was really
because-
waiting for you to say something.
because just like you guys, you're still in the industry. You've known each other for a long time. Jake started Tinder Box, went somewhere else. Now he's with Crowned Heads. Tyler was at Dayton smoking cigars. Then he went to Espinosa. Nate's worked for several shops in the area as a side gig. And we're doing a podcast about, it's called Bourbon BS. But what's fun about it is that we do this and people see the camera angle and all that stuff. But you're literally sitting in a garage. And we've had some heavy hitters like you guys.
100%.
Miguel, Jack Tarano, Jake, Tyler,
Laurel.
Rob,
Laurel.
Eric himself, Eric Espinosa.
Eric himself. Yeah.
Not in the garage, but like Alan Rubin's been
Hector
on
put
it.
on a show. here.
Rocky Patel.
Yes, he did.
Hector. was pissing on the side of the garage, and Tyler came out and tapped me on the shoulder. I was like, "What the fuck?"
Tyler's looking at me, going, "Dude, you got to end it. You got to take."
But no,
control."
like we've had Rocky Patel on the show, and it's all based out of the community, and that's what we do on this. And I love that.
Listen, this is my first role, and I've been with Eric for 3.5 years. This is my first role as a national sales director. I had a lot of questions. I tap into Miguel all the time. I tap into Juan Lopez all the time. I tap into, I don't want to make the mistakes we talked about. So I want to get feedback. When I have to make a decision, I want to get feedback from guys that have been doing it, guys that I respect in this industry. And
Learn from
I'm
other
going to tell you
people's
right
mistakes.
now, I have a lot of friends in this industry. There's very few that I respect more than this guy.
Thank you.
Not because he's sitting next to me. I love Miguel. Miguel knows that. And when certain reps share their compensation and I get calls, I got to call Miguel. So I reach out to Miguel Saturdays, Sundays.
that was your first mistake.
That was my first mistake. I'll keep
Did
my
you own
mouth
up
shut.
to it?
Yep. I'll own up to all my mistakes.
So those are very powerful closing remarks from Jack Durano, Massamosa Cigars.
Always end with a laugh. Mic drop.
No, don't you dare.
Miguel,
Yeah.
anything other than compensation?
Well, first of all, a couple of things.
What are you
One,
compensating for?
listen, I know that Tinder Box, Easton, Altidus are great supporters of your show.
Yeah.
Thank you for having us on. Thank you for allowing me to feature Rum on your Bourbon and BS podcast. I want to just say one thing. What I love about the second part, it reminds me of I'm a believer, and as iron sharpens iron, man sharpens man, right? And that's what the second part of the show is about.
Are you going to put that in your
He'll text it to
erotica?
you later.
Yeah. But that's really what the second half of the show is about. Nate's also a believer. Nate, wouldn't you say that's kind of what the second half of the show is about? It's about us helping each other become better people, talk about these things and learn from each other. It's about, and that's what came to mind as I sat here and thought about closing remarks. As iron sharpens iron, as man sharpens man, we help each other become better. We help each other, and that's really what the second half of the show is. I love the first half. We get to talk spirits, we get to talk tobacco. In the second half, we get to talk about topics that hopefully life. And so that biblical quote came to mind. I wanted to share, and that's all I wanted to share on my closing remarks.
I like that. Jake, welcome back to
And
the.
a big dick me again.
All right, Tyler,
Don't
shut
worry.
off their mic.
They didn't hear
I got to train you on that.
They didn't hear that. He was too far away from Mike. They didn't hear that.
All right, Jake, welcome back to the Bourbon BS podcast.
Thank you for having me back. This is awesome. As always.
I told you a long time ago. Jake and I started this. It was for those that don't know that the Bourbon and BS podcast was actually Jake's creation.
I don't know.
It was.
It's
It
not
was,
all mine.
And he came to me.
It's
he
not
came to
all
me-
mine.
Take the compliment.
It's not a count. It's factual that he was doing. He wanted to do like a Whiskey Wednesday type thing, and he came to me and wanted to do a podcast. And to the credit of Jake is he rolled with the fact that he approached me as someone that I said back to him. I was like, I'm not going to do a cigar and whiskey review.
Yep.
There's too many of them out there.
Yep.
I don't care if we fall on our face, if we just do this and we're just literally talking to the garage.
That's why I say it's not all like just like it
I
wasn't.
know,
my,
but like co-founder.
right.
What's so great about having Jake on this show again, and obviously this will not be the last time, is the fact that you wanted to do something, and now we have a voice in the cigar industry, we have a voice in the bourbon industry, and we have a lot of listeners
Yeah.
that don't drink whiskey, they don't smoke cigars, and the only credit I'll like what you're pushing towards me is I said to you, is like, I'm not going to do another bourbon and cigar review.
Right.
We have a life topic.
Yeah.
And now full circle 229 into this is that even we have a cigar great like Jack Durano. We have a cigar good guy. I don't know. How do you say that? I don't know.
He's a nice guy.
We have a guy that works in the cigar industry,
There you go.
We were called good fellows.
but he respects the whole project enough that he wanted to be a part of part two.
Yeah.
It's not even like not plugging his cigars, not plugging the company. Like, this is the cigar community.
Yes.
So, Jake, your closing remarks.
So first off, I mean, what'd you say, Nate? It's 4.5 years we're coming up on.
Oh yeah, we're a month away from 4.5 years of the podcast,
and
that includes like the 3 weeks that we took off for various reasons.
Right.
Yeah.
I mean, it astounds me, and it's amazing to see something. I mean, I can't imagine like the way that like Miguel and like Jack feel. I mean, there's 40, 50 years,
in the industry
combined
Yep.
between the two of you. And it's, for me to sit here and for Tyler to sit here with you guys. And, I'm sure that like people, I haven't even been looking at the comments, but like, I was quiet there for a long period of time during the podcast. And I mean, a lot of people can attest to it. Before I was never quiet, right? I always had to jump in, right? And
Well, the podcast didn't pay you.
But I think like throughout this week and me being my first traveling week with my boss and wearing the Crowned Heads colors and the brand, I mean, I've just been learning. I mean, I didn't know a ton about Crowned Heads going into the job, and I've learned a lot, I feel, and in a very short time. And I continue to learn not only about the brand, but just cigars in general from Miguel, Jack, Tyler. I mean, these are guys that bourbon was my first love. So, and it got me into cigars.
Yeah.
And then now I get to learn from the best people in the industry. You know what I mean? And now I'm making a career out of it. And it's very humbling and blessing to me. But
nice.
As far as the topic goes, I look back on how far, you laugh, like people laugh because I keep bringing Tyler into it, but him and I look at Tyler and we're the future of the cigar industry.
100%.
And we've been in Ryan Newman. I mean, we've been talking about this for a long time. And I think when you have that camaraderie between Miguel and Jack and how long they've been doing it, that's going to be Tyler and I in 15, 20 years.
Yep.
And it's humbling, and it's so beautiful to see.
Exciting.
It's very, very exciting.
Yeah.
So, as far as my closing remarks, I think that when it comes to like,
do you still double wrap?
No, I mean,
Jake,
why?
I got a flight in the morning.
yeah.
Don't worry, Jonathan Herring always keeps track of over under.
Oh
Those
man.
words closing remarks. Now they're gonna start.
Yeah. Yeah.
It all started with a young boy and a dream.
It did. It really did.
No, I'm not.
Ever since I was little, I wanted to be a gangsta.
Exactly.
Boat and a knife.
But
There it was.
no, I think that I take pride in the fact that I own up to my mistakes. I think you should in relationships and all aspects of life, and make sure that you don't make the same mistake twice, and
Nice.
don't try to sugarcoat it, and don't try to mask it. Like, own up to your shit and realize that that'll make you a better person in the long run. And on top of that, as far as like me throwing the monkey wrench with the boat story earlier,
Yeah.
if it's something that you realize that you want to do later on in life, or that you realize it's a true calling of yours, don't be afraid to take that leap and rip off the Band-Aid or put the scratch on the bottom of the boat.
There you go. I like it.
Nate, closing remarks.
I like it.
So I agree with what's been said already about
Jack has a flight, just so you know.
Oh, fuck.
about owning
So
up
here.
to your his flight's on Saturday.
When is your flight? What time?
8.
Oh, okay.
You're
Out of
good.
Dayton.
Oh shit. Steve,
Double
no.
wrap it up.
That's how much I love this industry, that I'm sitting right here with my pal Miguel
I thought it was
roasting Jake.
Yep.
Nate, go ahead.
Sorry.
Let's take one little pour here while he talks about this.
That's all that's left.
You
Yes,
talk,
Nate.
Nate. All you.
Yeah. No, I agree that when you make a mistake, you have to own up to it, and sometimes, it's not as obvious as when you're working in Chipotle and you rip a burrito. Sometimes you may see it as a mistake. Sometimes the other person sees it as a mistake. Either way, owning up to it. My first trip down to the DR when I was in the cigar industry, first night there, only time in my life I got so drunk I threw up, and I was embarrassed by it. The next morning, I called when I called my wife, I was like, "Yeah, last night I did something bad," and she's like, "Uh-oh, what?" I was like, "I got drunk and threw up." She's like, "That's it?" I'm like, "Oh, thank God, that's your response to that story." But no, I one of the other things that came to my mind as we were talking about this was how when you make a mistake, how the people you have to own up to treat that mistake. If you're talking to your boss, like, "Hey, I made this mistake," how are they going to treat you in return? Because if they still treat you with respect and are willing to, help you out or teach you in the event that that's what's needed to not make that mistake again. Obviously double booking an event is an obvious mistake, and you don't need someone to tell you not to do that again.
You would think.
But in other industries, you may make a mistake, and how your boss treats you can completely affect your demeanor going forward.
Absolutely.
If you make the tiniest mistake, but yet they sit there and they tear you down, that makes you not want to tell them you fucked up again, because you don't want them coming at you negatively or aggressively. You'd rather hide that, so that way they don't know about it, and they don't treat you that way. And it says a lot about people in roles of leadership, how they respond to someone who does make a mistake. Are you the kind of person that's going to sit there and berate that person, or are you someone who's going to sit there and be like, "Hey, I'm glad you owned up to it. Glad you realized you fucked up. What are we going to do going forward?" So it comes from both sides. You also got to try and make the other party happy. Like if you mess up a customer's order or something, how are you going to make them happy? Sometimes the customer's idea of making it right is not in the best interest of you or who you represent. Like if you sit there and you fuck up an order and your customer's like, "Well, you should just give me that order for free." Like, well, no, that's not the way we can do this, but maybe we can compromise. Maybe we can work something out. There's got to be a little bit of give and take. You both learn from something. But you at least own up to it and not try and shove it off onto other people, because especially in the cigar industry, like if Jake, Tyler, Rob, if they make a mistake, but they put it on their superiors, but then that shop notifies their superiors, like, "Hey, I was told you fucked up." And you're like, "Really? Who told you that?" Like, well, now you just compounded the problem.
Two problems.
You just
Good.
double wrapped the burrito and
Good.
added more calories onto it, and now you got a bigger problem going forward.
Yep.
So if you make a mistake, own up to it. Hopefully you work for people that will take that as an opportunity for learning,
Yes.
and not a way to tear you down.
100%.
I agree. Absolutely. I will say this is both sides, Nate over 4. Jonathan Aaron, what's my over?
I was trying, Jonathan.
There's a drinking
That
game
was
we have.
good.
We have a
That was
drinking game.
good.
See the whiteboard. Yeah.
I mean, how are you supposed to sum something up? And like, we've been talking for what, 3.5 hours?
3:12. With the intermission.
Jake 3:59.
Yeah, you were just under his.
At the end of the day.
Oh,
That's
yeah,
drink.
just doing that. Yeah, everyone drank.
That's one of the drinks.
Focus, Steve.
That's Jack.
It's only if. Oh no, it is if anyone says focus. That's
All
right.
right, so I think there's obviously, as always, there's two sides to everything, and we're talking about the whole thing of topic of rewrapping a burrito. I love the fact we talked about this for like an hour and a half. And we're laughing at the original
Still
topic.
can't get over it.
Hey,
Because
yeah.
he's remembering the times that he would double wrap a burrito. Didn't realize there were 300 or 400 extra calories.
Give me 3.
At the time, I
Your
could
plane is boarding.
At the time, I needed it.
Reminds me of the Blues Brothers. Like 4 fried chicken, 4 whole fried chicken.
I like the Parks and Rec thing where like Nick Offerman says, he's like, I know what you heard me say was all your eggs and bacon.
Bacon, all the bacon.
All the bacon. You thought I want a lot of bacon.
No, I
All the bacon.
all the bacon.
No, I think it always comes down to communication, and I think that it's really interesting when you get into like the career, the relationship, all the things we talked about, is the fact that you guys at this table, everyone out there, myself included, you try to cover up so much just to make people happy. That's the big thing. You try to make people happy. Doesn't matter if it's your manager above you, your significant other, it's the customer in front of you. You just want people to be fucking happy.
Yeah.
That is a never-ending, hopefully small percentage, a defeatist goal. You're not going to do it. You will not do it. The person above you will say, you're killing it, right? And Jack, Miguel, Jake, you've been in a different part of the industry. Now you're working for Miguel, so I'm not trying to set you up on this. Nate, you've been in different industries. I've been in different industries. You're killing it. And the powers that be say, wouldn't it be nice if we could do more?
We've talked about this.
You never had this, Jack?
Oh, gosh.
Always.
Always.
He's shaking his head. That's why I looked over at him.
Have you met Eric Espinosa?
I don't work for Eric Espinosa.
More is better, and I agree with him.
But Eric Espinosa says,
you always strive.
my
to do more.
salespeople that do well are worth every dime. They it's both sides.
Absolutely.
So if you're this is not personal relationships, this is career. If you're above the person, you're below the person, it's, are you honest with your effort?
I feel
That's
like
the
that
biggest thing.
derives from relationships too.
What's that?
If you're under or over.
Yeah, but all right, yeah, we can.
Did you give your best effort, Steve?
Every day.
My biggest thing is that we don't always know what the other party is expecting. We think we do, and we kill it. And there's a certain point that we messed up. You guys are gonna laugh. We messed up too many burritos.
Mm-hmm.
I make the best, like such positive feedback. Fuck you, Tyler.
Yes.
But I messed up.
Maybe that guy should be pouring cokes.
Yeah.
We move him.
Know your role. But I will say this
Clean
is that
dishes.
you do, if you do what you guys are talking about, you do your best, you do all that stuff, talking to the other party, having communication with that. What are their expectations? They say their expectations and you meet them. Now they want more. I wish you would have said that. Conversation would be like, I love the fact that you guys have met your expectations.
But isn't that the nature of sales?
It is to a point until it gets unrealistic,
Yeah.
right? And you guys have both, I know you.
Even when it does get unrealistic.
I don't know your sales goals, but I can tell you, being in the sales realm that long, your expectations that you met will get modified. Because wouldn't it be cool if we could do this? That's not
Jack was talking
specific
about
to
that last
my
night.
history.
Yeah.
That's not unique to what I've done in my life. I've experienced it, and now you relate to that. It's about whether you're the person that is expecting a perfect burrito, or the person that's like, you fucked up too many burritos. The same thing. Even if you roll everything right, you do everything right, you're killing it. What's interesting to me personal relationships and also the career-wise, the job is that the squeaky wheel always gets the grease. The party that's involved in your life, no matter what the capacity is, it really doesn't matter in this conversation, is that the one that's doing well doesn't get the attention. Everyone gets complacent. So if you roll me, going back to the original metaphor, you roll me 1,000 burritos, nothing's wrong. And then you roll the wrong person's burrito wrong. Can I double wrap that? Yeah, all right. Come back in. I fucked up again. To Jake's scenario, double meat, double, what was it? Double sour cream, double fucking everything.
Guacamole, all the sauces, double
Physically,
rice.
You cannot make that person happy with the tool belt that you're given.
I gave him more tools. I made it easier on him.
3 tortillas.
Yeah.
No,
Fuck it.
my
This is gonna weigh like a newborn baby.
Yeah.
All right. So to that point, you give that person in your life or that employee unrealistic
Expectations.
expectations. There is a self-fulfilling prophecy.
Yes.
Everyone-
Yes. Yes.
What I'm saying is that I think the goals need to be clear, and there's got to be some parameters there. And the biggest part is that you're trying to make that person with the expectations happy because you want to. And the person that gives you the expectations isn't just looking for the next step. They want to be happy with the expectations. You guys in the sales industry, you forecast, you have quotas, budgets, whatever you call it, right? You hit those, let's celebrate. If you hit them early, you're like, those expectations weren't big enough.
How
You
can
go
we
back,
do more?
Let's squeeze a little bit more. Well, we can't get there. Not this year. Next year we can. It's realistic expectations of people.
I don't know about Miguel. I don't readjust during the year. I mean, if these guys are exceeding their goals, I'm not all of a sudden going, let's change it for the second half of the year. You now have to not grow 20%. You got to go 50% because the first half has been a monster.
Right.
Like, we don't do that. We'll address it next year, but you got to have realistic growth. If not, they lose interest. They have bonus structures in play. If they hit their number, they hit bonuses. If I make that number unrealistic for them to reach,
It kind of takes away a little bit of the motivation.
And you'll lose them.
and you'll lose them. You know, midway through the month, they're sitting at home because I'm never going to reach that number Jack put up.
Yeah. Why worry about it?
Or Miguel put up.
Well,
Why am I worried about that?
And that's not a shitty
You're
way
gonna
of
pay
thinking
more
about
in
it.
the
That's
long
reality.
term to replace that person.
Yeah.
I think that's the big thing about. Sorry, so my closing remarks.
But definitely, the goal of all these guys is not to hear from me and Miguel. Like, Miguel is no doubt going to work more closely with Jake for the next few months than he will with other guys on his team. You know, when you got somebody new, you're going to work more with him. When I got a new rep, I'm going to work 8 times a year with him.
You hope so. As a new rep, you hope so.
Yeah, you hope so.
Here's my big thing.
But, you know,
Here's my big thing.
I have reps that I talk to 15 times a week. I talk to Tyler maybe twice. I don't need to talk to Tyler.
Here's my big thing.
And that's a testament to you, Tyler.
100%.
A newer relationship, you pay so much attention. You want to make that person happy.
You have to.
Right?
Not make him happy, help him succeed.
A new employee,
Yeah.
you want to make them feel appreciated. The big letdown is when you get complacent and you don't give that attention. You don't
Say it.
No, Rob said you don't rewrap that burrito. You don't give them the option. You just take control.
Oh.
That's the problem.
Whoa. You can't flip the script.
I can't.
You just
I absolutely can.
It's his podcast. He can do whatever
This
the
is our
fuck he
fucking
wants.
show. You guys came to my garage. I live here. Yeah, go fuck yourself. No, you have to. This is continuing effort to communicate and make sure that all parties are taken care of.
100%.
And I think that's where we miss a lot is that we don't do that enough.
I didn't know this was part of the metaphor.
Steve
Glad
likes
you
to hold a little bit back.
Glad
I
you
just,
stuck around.
I really wish I would have been prepared.
Well, next time.
What'd you say,
Steve
Jack?
likes to hold back.
Thanks to
My plane
Espinosa
goes-
Cigars
Plane just went by.
and Jack Tiranio. No, thanks to Crown Heads for you guys are amazing and
Thank you, Steve. Thank
Oh, my
you.
God.
Steve, thank you.
Thank
Nate.
you, Nate.
Thank you, guys.
Thanks for the Florida guys coming to a cul-de-sac in Ohio. Cheers to Jake. Thank you very much. Welcome back.
Yes, thank you very much.
Rob Wilson from Rock Patel. When it's cool, we'll have you back on the show.
We got to invite him back in
When
January.
he's cool.
We don't
You'll
have to invite him
back.
Oh
Guys.
no, we do. We got to invite him back in January and not run the heaters.
Yes, thank you. Invite me to that one.
We'll be happy to have Nick Mitchell or Rocky Patel on the show, or maybe Nish. Guys,
Nick would be
cheers.
good.
Thank you guys so much. I hope
Yeah.
you guys had a good time.
Amazing.
Everyone out there, I
Thank
hope
you
you had
so
a good
much.
time. Share with your friends.
Cheers.